Oh, all right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. Skyout, say something because I think you might be really low.
Hello, can you hear me?
Testing.
Testing.
Yeah, your volume's coming in.
There you go. Oh yeah.
We're good.
I'm always fucking. There we go. All right. All right. Okay. I'm organized now. I think I'll be organized, but I've been talking. So as you can see, Skyout showed this time. My audience didn't think he was gonna show Skyout.
No, I said.
There's Socka.
Oh, and there he is.
So this is going to be interesting. We're going to let you and Socka go at it, but first, I'm going to let everybody. Well, before you and Socka go at it, we're going to address your stupid ass, racist, homophobic comedy show. I'll let you justify that, but we'll let everybody introduce themselves first. I know Atheist Rationale has a channel. Socka's actually putting stuff on his channel. This one guy, I tried to look for your channel and I couldn't find it. Get bigger.
But, keep smiling for me.
I'll just link your channel before we leave tonight in the side chat so I can get there because I couldn't find it. But yeah. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and then I will get everybody's descriptions or links in the description below, and except for Skyout, that will depend on your explanation, sir. But go.
I'm John Peterson. I'm a resident. I'm a resident of Earth.
And you do you can plug your Saturday night show, John.
Well, yeah, like once a week, sometime over the weekend, I'll be having a stream on the Great Debate Community channel. We've had 2 so far, and it's been a couple good discussions, and each time we have a stream, we're going to learn about a new a channel that everybody should know about. Next weekend, if we have a stream next weekend, if not, it'll be the following weekend. And next, we're going to feature Nakasuchi's channel, which maybe doesn't mean as much to everybody that's here now, because of course we're here and we all know about him. But hopefully during that next stream, there'll be some people there that haven't heard of Nakasuchi, and we'll be able to head them in his direction. So
yeah, I need growth to go. My growth has been stunted the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I'm figuring it out. All right, so who wants to go next?
I'm the Atheist Rationale. I haven't made content in a couple of months. Don't pay too much attention to me. If you want to find a channel to subscribe to the Tatted Philosophy. He just covered Kragan Clan, which is like this fringe member of the NIFB, and it's a pretty fucking great episode. You should go check that out.
Yeah, I need to check that out. Room. I invited Tatted here tonight, so hopefully he'll show up. I'll wait for him to. I'll check Twitter here in a minute. So hopefully he'll come in tonight too, because I really like Tatted Philosophy.
I'll plug myself when I actually create content.
Yeah, well, you've had a hectic life, and you're going to school and all that shit, right? Too.
Oh yeah, I had to move again just recently. My girlfriend and I broke up, and
yeah, life happens, man. It sucks. We've all been through that shit. Trust me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more content from you. And it's always good to have Atheist Rationale on. He's a good friend. He's been a long time viewer ever since I first started doing Matt Powell video. I think my first Matt Powell video was probably the first comment I got from you.
I think I was watching pre 1,000 subs, honestly.
Yeah. So
long.
Yeah, it's been a while. So this one guy, tell us about your channel, and maybe you might want to link it in the chat so people can get it too. Okay. You want to delay this one guy? Maybe link your channel in the chat for everybody too, so they can get to it. Because I had a hard time.
You might want to turn yourself up a little bit too, man. You're quiet.
Can you guys hear me? No,
yeah,
it's my stupid.
Much better.
I'm driving, so I'm getting my signals going in and out. I got all these trees around me. I hate it.
You're always doing something.
Be safe, man.
I'm on my way to work always. Yeah, late at night, always at work. But yeah, I'm a Christian, and you'll catch me in like a lot of live chats. I've been known to be almost everywhere because I'll just hop in and I'll start talking. But yeah, you can try to sub to my channel right now. I'm just doing pretty much Bible stuff. So unless you're into the Bible or just like looking at Bible stuff, you can check it out. Watch me grow. I just got on Streamlabs, so I just figured it out, and I just did a new one today. So I wonder how if I could use the critiques on it. So if anyone wants to watch it and critique me, that'd be awesome.
Hey, dude, you should plug your parody. That thing was great.
Yeah, I still gotta watch that.
My Skyout thingy, yeah.
I'm gonna cut that out specifically and make it its own little thing. And you feel free to do that yourself. This one guy, if you're talking about what you did on my stream when Skyout was a bitch and didn't show.
Whatever.
All right, Socka, you want to go, and then we'll let Skyout go last, and maybe he can ease my anger.
Yeah, sure. I'm Socka account. Follow me on Instagram for hair and makeup tutorials, and that's about it.
Socka, short and sweet. He's got a lot for you. He must have a lot for you, Skyout.
Hair and makeup tutorials.
Yeah, I saw Socka. I saw Socka on the Non Sequitur show.
Yeah.
Was that you?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw Socka on this channel too when he wiped the floor with you.
Oh yeah, I mean you can think that, but we all know what happened.
Yeah, we do all know what happened.
But the elephant in the room, Skyout, is your comedy show, and you're coming on really in a bad day. So I'm just gonna unpack it for you, Skyout, because maybe you're just too fucking stupid to understand what's going on right now. But in our community, we are having issues with trans rights. We're having issues with the LGBTQ community. And then you come along with this fucking comedy show and you're insulting every single thing you can insult. So please, just explain it to me. I really need some kind of a justification because I wasn't going to let you come back on, but then I'm like, fuck, I let Matt Powell come on. So, I mean, can't go much worse than Matt Powell. So, and I'm a forgiving sort. And I really want to, you to justify why comedy is okay to be homophobic, transphobic, racist, all of that when you're supposed to be a Christian. And I'm kind of glad you're off your script, but you're supposed to be a Christian, and this isn't the way I was hoping you'd come off your script. Go.
Yeah, the show is incorporated between shows like Sunny in Philadelphia, Seinfeld, and Kirby.
Nothing like any of those shows.
It wasn't even fucking close.
It's not supposed to be like those shows. It's supposed to be based off two people arguing. So I try to make up characters that two people at least arguing while I trash other shows because I think it's hilarious. Other than that, I think it's funny. And
can I ask a real quick question just before you get too far past it? You opened your statement by naming several comedy shows, saying it's based on that, and then as soon as somebody called you out on it, you said, "Well, no, it's not really based on that." I mean, do you have any thoughts or beliefs that are firm in your mind, or are you just malleable from one minute to the other?
No. We can talk about philosophy. We can talk about normative ethics. If you watch my video,
that wasn't even the question.
Yeah, that was a complete non sequitur right there. But
and Socka's here for all of that, and Socka will put you back in your place. I love debating Christianity with you and trying to get you off your script. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun for all of us to partake in that. And I'm glad you're here. You showed up. You do have some balls. I think you might be 19. So I could be wrong about that.
I don't hate gays. I'm not racist. I'm not homophobic. I'm not opposed.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that, but then why? You just said that you thought it was funny, and I'm telling you, it's not. It's not funny. It's not comedy. It's hatred and bigotry, in my opinion. It is. You are picking on marginalized people, and if it was tasteful and if it was funny, you could have that claim, but it's not. It's all right. Your black guy voice doesn't make any legitimate points. He just says a bunch of garbled words that are out of place and are designed to fit that old black guy stereotype. Your gay person voice doesn't really add any benefit to your conversations from the video that I saw.
Not to mention he put on a bunch of labels that didn't fit any normal
if you can't see where people would see, this to be homophobic and racist and transphobic, especially. I mean, you might not quite understand what's going on, but there's a lot of shit going on involved in this stuff. Tensions are high, to say the least. A lot of people are disappointed in this person or that person, or thinking that they're not labeling people as hatred when we have pure examples. I'm not sure if you saw my video earlier, Skyout, but there are pure examples, and right now you're one of those fucking examples, and you don't want to be one of those examples.
Well, no, I think it's hilarious that I am one of those examples, because they're taking the comedy show way too literally, and that's what makes me laugh, because the show's not meant to be something that.
It's not like they're taking it. I'm taking the comedy show too literally. Nobody's fucking watching it. I'm taking it too literally. I'm telling you. I'm the one sitting here telling you that it's racist, that it's homophobic, that it's transphobic. I'm telling you, like, as a Native American, we really don't. I don't care, because I fight against the racism. But most, like, especially heavily blooded Native Americans, really don't like it when white people make fun of Native Americans. You know.
Okay, how is it racist or homophobic when I know people that talk like that?
What do you mean? You know people that talk like that? You're giving me. Well, I have a black friend that I'm not racist argument.
Well, no, the answer to that, Skyout, is because what you're doing is you're mocking them stereotypically, and you're stereotyping class
friends. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead. I was pretty much. I was just saying he's mocking them stereotypically, and he's implying that they're all like that. And the other thing, real quick too, Knock, is everything Knock said is true as far as what those comedy hours represent that you think. But what I find most objectionable is that you try and call it comedy, because it's not comedy. No.
One thing I want to say before you go ahead, Knock, is there's this one thing about jokes that people don't seem to realize is they have meaning and intent behind them. And if the whole point is to mock these groups, then you're doing something fucked up.
Yeah, and if you really had friends that were in these groups or talked like that, as you say, which I've never met a black person that talked the way your black person talks. Your black person is literally talking like a slave would have. So,
and to even imply that there's a black voice
yeah, I mean, so for you to sit here and fucking lie about it and justify it and rationalize it is not doing anything for me personally.
So you never met a black person came from prison before?
I was in prison, and
So
no, none of them spoke like that. There is ghetto speak, and then there is slave speak, and you're doing the slave speak. You're not doing the gangster. Okay, there's a difference. I have brand. Let's look at that shit, Skyout. You see that shit? I was in prison. I got him on my chest. So you can sit here and justify it, but you're preaching at somebody that knows what the fuck he's talking about, and they don't speak like that.
So do you understand what a bag man and a bang in the chest and a chomo and the green ice and in the hole and the rat and the snuff and the seg means?
No.
Then you don't know prison term.
That wasn't no prison term. That was fucking jumbled speak. That was making fun of a demographic.
Yeah, I was in prison and I never heard any shit like that. And if you pulled the shit you pulled in your comedy hour in prison, you'd wind up, man.
Yeah.
You'd be going to PC, buddy. You'd have to go to PC or you'd be getting fucked up.
You're here, you're facing the fire, and I appreciate it. And I'm getting out a lot of frustration. And I had them this morning. Anybody that watched my video this morning would have fucking been able to tell it. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I got out what I wanted to say. You haven't justified it, though. And I would heavily consider getting back on your script, Skyout, and stop doing that shit. But that's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. But I'll let other people.
There is no script. It's all at the top of my head.
Oh, you're a fucking improv genius, Skyout. Hey, something else real quick, Skyout. Quit talking your fucking shit in the side chat. If you got something to say it fucking live, man. Be a fucking man.
Yeah, you know I don't read the
say it like a man.
I try to read the chat. I'm trying to get better at the chat, but you know I don't read the chat. So if you got something to say it. I mean, justify your shit. But then we'll let you get back to, because this is gonna be the last chance to Socka on my channel, unless you haven't justified it. enough for me. Maybe you'll do so throughout the course of the night. Maybe I'll feel better. I confront bigotry. I don't platform them. So I've confronted it. Now we'll let Soccer wipe the floor with you, and everybody can participate. So not just Soccer. You know what I'm saying. But I got what I want to say. Everybody else we can move on, and hopefully by the end of the night you'll change my mind, Skyout. Because when I first debated you, I actually had fun with you, and I've had fun with you in the chats. This has turned it to another level for me. But I admit that I'm in a spot that I have been emotionally charged. I do not like seeing marginalized people attacked. I stand for LGBTQ rights, and I always will. And if I feel like somebody is denigrating people that I stand for, well, then I will attack. So, I mean, it shouldn't come as any surprise, but I'll let other people go. I'm going to kind of go and take a couple breaths and calm myself.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
Personally, I thought. Sorry.
no, I just wanted to say just real quick that, like, the subject matter that you touched on in the little bit that I did watch of what you put out in that comedy hours it's not that it's completely taboo, because there are comedians who do cover that subject matter, and they do it in a well thought way, and in a way that's not necessarily offensive, but can still poke fun, at one another. But,
Absolutely.
But hold on. But you haven't captured the essence of that. You are as Knock described it. And
you're no Dave Chappelle, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I have a black friend that talks like, and I also have a gay friend that talks like that, and a drunk friend that talks like my wizard.
That's not an excuse, though.
I personally found it somewhat funny. But, like, when it got too extreme, then it's like, okay, like, when it rambled on, I thought it was going to change, and it didn't. But you did go a little excessive at it. Like, it was funny, like, at first, and then you realize, like, damn, this is kind of sounding hateful. So I think it was just the excessive amount of it. Maybe have it and then mild it off is what my suggestion would be, because I laughed at first, and then, like I said, but then after, like, the first one you did, it was somewhat hilarious, but as you were going off, it kind of felt like, okay, this is taking a dark turn.
Yeah. Thank you. I plan to make it a more hilarious.
Yeah, we gotta remember that his little profile picture here is kind of an extension of that comedy hour right now. I mean, even yesterday, he kept coming onto the Raging Atheist chat saying, "Hey guys, look at my profile picture. Doesn't it make me look like a tranny? Using slurs and shit, dude. That's not cool."
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I mean, everybody heard my comment when he first came in with the profile picture, so I'm not surprised. Go ahead.
I don't think I said I was a trans.
Yeah, you did. It's all in the chat.
Hey, Knock, pardon me for interrupting.
And I actually went at it a little bit over it because he thought I was being a little too harsh for putting you on timeout.
Pardon me for interrupting. Nakasuchi, I just got an email from Messenger. He wants you to send him a link.
Yeah, Messenger and Jeremy. I will, in just a little bit, I will. I'm going to let people that it hasn't had too much of a chance to speak. Skyout, can continue to defend yourself. I will send links out in a few minutes. I do want to let Socka and Skyout have an exchange before too many people. And Messenger, if you're going to come in, let's not let this be an atheist rationale bashing. My friend,
right now, anyways. We all know trans just a typo for fucking the slur. So
yeah, so
but I thought everyone was.
Thanks for putting the exact quote up there for me, man. I really appreciate that.
What was that?
Look.
Yeah, I'm reading it now. Just a second. Yeah,
It's an obvious typo. We know what he meant. We're not.
Yeah.
It only takes a half a brain cell to figure that out. Come on.
So, all right. So, Scott.
Yeah.
So, you're a Christian that loves people, right?
Absolutely.
Then why would you mock them?
No. Basically, what I'm explaining to you is that we all have
I'm not knocking you, Scott, because I mock people. I do it, so I'm not knocking you.
Okay.
But I don't. I try to not do it in a hateful way, and I try to clarify myself if I feel like I've been painting with a broad brush. Say, hey, man, I've been painting with a broad brush. I mean this group, not this whole group. You know, so I don't know. Like it just seems. I don't know. Like it's not a very Christian. At least the Christians that I know would hear your comedy show and turn it off in disgust.
Well, that's a contradiction in terms. It's very subjective and relative on your point of evolution. Wouldn't you say so?
I'm not sure what evolution has to do with any of this.
What the fuck did you just say? That made no sense at all.
Yeah,
didn't really
so
follow from that.
You're not helping yourself. So yeah, we can move on. Socka, I'm glad that you piped in because I want to hear from Socka and Socka. I don't know, maybe Skyout. You said that you have this philosophy, you have all this other shit. So go ahead and start bringing it, and Socka and everybody else can jump in. Messenger wants a piece of you, so I'm gonna bring Messenger in. I'm gonna send Jeremy a link, and then we'll close it down and keep it at that for a while, and see where we're at. And I don't think I finished typing. Hello, Dr. Josh.
So Skyout, before things get any more combative or whatever, like I was expressing last night, I don't keep a tally board beside my computer for internet arguments won or anything like that. We had an interesting discussion, which I thought that we probably behoove you to come back a little bit more prepared for, and I'm hoping that you have. We talked about some things there that I'm sure you've probably gone and looked up now. So I think that the kind of topic is the one of the idea of presuppositional apologetics and whether or not it's an effective means of or effective style of apologetics, which you might want to be able to offer something to. But then there's also the question of what is proposed through presuppositionalism, whether or not it's actually representative of the kind of like the problems with epistemology that we do observe, within philosophy.
Usually, when you talk about epistemology, you're talking about knowledge, and as Christians, we believe that knowledge, like if I were to ask you questions that you didn't know, obviously I would ask you the question, like, could God exist in the knowledge you don't have, for example, because knowledge comes from a source, like the laws of physics and the laws of chemistry and biology and kinetic equations and the fine-tuning of the universe, and we believe that the universe is created by a creator, and that conceives that the laws of physics are absolute, and therefore when you talk about the
now that's comedy.
Okay,
the last couple of minutes, guys. The last couple of minutes. Now that's comedy.
Let him go, guys. Okay.
Okay. So when you talk about epistemology in philosophy, for example, and there's a lot of philosophy that speaks about even because there's twin realities in truth and relevance. So you have to understand that even in philosophy, the God plays a very intricate role in philosophy. People like Lewis Carroll and Frank Zappa and Dale Renton, these are all philosophical quotes that I can mention, even William Shakespeare or Plato or Confucius. So there's a lot of philosophical people that I can also quote that pertain to philosophy. But again, there is also within philosophy the fundamental knowledge and reality of the existence of reality and how it's justified in considered in scholar and academic sources as well. So you can't look at sources that are just secondary sources. So you have to look at scholarly academic sources that are peer reviewed to cross-reference other professors in college that have done your work for you, basically, in other books and libraries. So like when you talk about philosophy, I go to other philosophers. So
okay, all right. Do you want me to repeat my first two questions again? Would that make it easier to answer?
1 second. No, I heard you said what was my presupposition apologist, what is preposed in it, and epistemology and philosophy, because I kind of jotted it down here. So
those were all words that I said. Do you want me to repeat my questions again? Okay. The first question was that comes to presuppositional apologetics. Is that an effective in which one can go out and proselytize? Okay. Does it obtain the goal which is required or called upon from Christians in the Great Commission, essentially? And then the second question was, when practicing presuppositional apologetics, is this actually something? Is the arguments that are generally presented by presuppositionalists reflective of what the common thought of people within the field that study epistemology? Like, is this is actually mapped to how we understand the field?
Yeah, I would say Christians definitely. You just asked me what is it effective and presuppositional is presented by it refers to people in epistemological framework, but not just any epistemological framework. It only appeals to the knowledge and revelation from God. So examples would be like the knowledge that you don't possess. For example, God could exist in the epistemological framework that basically you don't have. So the knowledge that you don't possess, God could exist in the knowledge you don't have.
Well, let me just interject just one part there. Is that's irrelevant to the question of epistemology.
Okay.
Epistemology would deal more with the justifications or like the theory of knowledges, which allow us to make knowledge claims about the world. It doesn't mention the anything out there that might be that's knowledge that's unattainable or knowledge that we don't have access to at this point in time. Like when we're talking about knowledge, okay, like that. Generally, they're like the theory knowledge. We're talking about the propositions that go into us justifying whether or not a belief, or depending what other models you have, whether or not we could actually say that something is more than just a mere belief, that something is knowledge. And in that sense, the theories really require more on just the justificatory aspect of it, rather than I'm not even sure what you're talking about there. If we're talking about like there are facts of reality that exist out there, such as the number of grains of sand on a beach, or how many planets are in the entire universe. These are bits of knowledge that are absent from my from my belief set. But like, I don't think that that's relevant to the question of how it is that we justify the beliefs that we do have.
Well, I would say like the beliefs that you do have doesn't speak of the origin of where it came from. So you'd have to see where your epistemological framework, your knowledge, and the origins of where it came from. If you're saying it came from evolution, or did it come from a creator, or did it come from nothing, or did it come from a naturalistic causes?
Yeah, all those points are irrelevant. If we're going to be talking about just how like the brain developments, or how it is that we could hold on to cognitive thought. I mean, if we want to jump into different fields like neuroscience or evolutionary psychology or evolutionary biology or any of these fields out there, those are fine, but those don't answer the questions either. When we're talking about epistemology, we're saying just within the realm of it, the source has nothing to do with it. It's irrelevant to the question of how it is that we know things about the world. Which is like, I mean, like that's kind of like the point that you advocate for when, you put forward any type of presuppositional style apologetics.
Yeah, but at least for when I do apply the presuppositional argument, we're saying that we do have a source. You're saying you don't have a source for your knowledge. I don't see how you justify that.
I'm not saying that we don't have a source for knowledge at all. No,
you just said it was irrelevant. You just said it was irrelevant.
Yeah, I said it's irrelevant what the source was. And what we're talking about there is you're not talking about the source of knowledge. What you're talking about is the source of cognitive function. Okay, and the source of cognitive function is irrelevant to the question. Okay, we have cognitive function now. We hold beliefs. How do we justify beliefs? How do we make knowledge claims about reality? That's what we're talking about now. Whether we were created, whether it was the process of evolution, it doesn't matter when we're talking about just how it is that we build epistemic framework so we can justify knowledge.
Well, how do you know your knowledge is not? It could be false. If you don't know the origin of where it came from, that means the knowledge that you possess could be not absolute. It could be false.
Well, in your worldview, are you infallible?
What? I'm sorry, you were cutting out, man.
Sorry, in your worldview, are you infallible?
I'm what? I'm sorry.
Are you infallible?
No, God is infallible. I can make mistakes. God can't.
Okay, so you are fallible. Okay, so in both of our frameworks, we're fallible, and mistakes can be made even through things that we claim to know. Okay, so that's great. That's true of any epistemic framework, regardless whether it's yours or mine.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter whether or not we had the fact that we can be wrong about things. The question then is that what you're bringing out there is that when you do make knowledge claims about something, this is a point that I don't want you to address right now because this is a little bit farther ahead in the conversation. But we're going to circle back around to this, which is the idea of whether or not, in order for you to know something, you have to know that you know it. Just bring that up now because I know we're going to hit that later. But anyway, carrying on to the idea of just that how it is that we can know things. How it is that we can build these frameworks in which we can make knowledge claims about reality. Now, there are certain things that you claim within your self-apologetics that I want to know whether or not you can validate in any way.
You still there? Sorry, it's been cutting out a little bit.
I heard him perfectly. I think you cut out. You actually cut out when you're speaking, Skyout. So I think it might be on your end.
Okay.
Hey, Scott,
okay.
Scott, real quick, if I could just interject this one question. Have you, in your few encounters with your few encounters here with Socka, have you ever once thought to yourself to simply say to Socka, I don't understand the question you're asking me?
It'll be okay.
Because that would be okay.
No, I understand. He's just talking about the knowledge, and I'm saying he can't justify his knowledge claim. That's all.
Well, the reason I bring this point up is because nearly 100% of your response to Socka thus far have been non sequitur to the question he asked you. Now, so I don't know.
Yeah, one of the things that you just did there, Skyout, too, which was incredibly dishonest, and I just like you to maybe avoid it in the future here, is that you said that Socka said that he has no justification for knowledge. Okay. Now, what we're talking about here within this entire field of study is how it is that we justify knowledge. Okay. And the idea, what you tried to label on me earlier on in the conversation, was that the justification for knowledge comes from evolution, but that's not true. No epistemologist would argue that the justificatory factors for knowledge is evolution. Okay, like that's just that's irrelevant to the question. The justification for knowledge doesn't come from whether the theory of evolution is true or not. So because I dismissed you bringing up evolution doesn't mean that I don't have a justification for knowledge. Okay. So if you want to get into what counts as a justification or what does it mean to justify something, then we can talk about that. But try not to skip too far ahead and, like I said, be disingenuous like that.
Oh, no, I do apologize if I was. But what I'm saying is that I have a basis for my my source of my knowledge, and your basis of your source of your knowledge is that it's irrelevant, because you said that earlier. So I don't know how you can continue.
The source of cognitive function, okay, is a completely different field to what does it mean to build an epistemic framework. Do you understand? Do you understand the difference of this? Okay, like do you understand the difference between forming an epistemic framework in which we can justify knowledge compared to explaining how we come to cognitive functions? Do you understand that those are two separate fields of study?
No, he doesn't.
You don't.
I know. Okay.
I don't. Praise. I'll admit it.
I can pretend to know.
Hey, Skyout. So, when Socka engaged you a moment ago, you did the exact thing right after he asked you not to do it, because when he used the term irrelevant, what he was trying to say is that the question of the source of cognitive function is irrelevant. He wasn't saying that the source of his knowledge claims is irrelevant and yours are relevant because you have you claim it's God, and that's basically what you tried to say. He's just saying that the source is not an issue here in what he's trying to engage you on.
Okay, then how did the laws of physics come into existence if it's irrelevant?
What does that have to do with epistemology?
Because it has to do with knowledge. Because
no, it doesn't.
If you don't know,
it's a fact about reality. Okay, it's
So you don't know how the laws
so
of physics, right? You don't know how the laws of physics came into existence, right?
so
You don't know how the laws.
Are
Are
you
you gonna let
asking
me-
Scott? What? I'm
Okay.
sorry, Stock. I don't mean to speak for you. I just found that funny.
Because like,
Okay,
because at
so
least I can justify
the issue with
that.
that
I can
question.
say the laws
Okay.
of physics were made by my creator, but you can't say the laws of your origin of your knowledge is
Amen.
limited there. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so that's a good point there, Skyout. So let's take a look at that claim right there that you just made. Okay, now the thing is when we're talking about explanations, like the explanation that you just put out there, for example, is that there. Do you think that your explanation is a good explanation or a bad explanation?
Well, I'm saying that it's an explanation that it's justifiable. It's
No,
it's
no.
scientific.
I would say that it's.
It's
Okay.
science.
So you think that the creator, a creator of the universe, a being that transcends space and time, is a scientific explanation?
In mechanisms in science, like the laws of physics, it points to a creator. In mechanisms in biology, so it points
Well,
to an agent.
how do the mechanisms of physics point to a creator?
Matt Powell called. He wants his arguments back.
I'm just wondering, how does it point to a creator as an explanation?
Because the origin of the universe, either you're saying it came from nothing or it came from knowledge from something, or if you're saying that abstract objects like the color blue or the number 7 can produce and turn things alive and create, which I don't think they can do, then I don't know how the universe came into existence. If you're going to say that
Okay,
there's
so
no God,
so just an argument from incredulity. You can't imagine any scenario in which your creator doesn't apply, so therefore your creator applies. Well, unfortunately, that's just a whole boatload of fallacious reasoning. I don't really have to really justify a response to that.
well, you don't, because you don't have an absolute standard about it. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think that logical fallacies would be fallacious whether or not an absolute standard existed?
Well, again, you're presupposing what you're saying is true without
I'm
a
not
good argument.
presupposing anything. Like, what presuppositions have I put on the table so far? What's further than that?
That your knowledge, you said you presuppose that your knowledge does not come from God, and I'm saying, how do you
No,
know
I never
that?
said that. Did anybody else in the room?
It
Did I
does.
say at all that? No, hold on a second. Did anybody in the room? Did I say that I presuppose that my knowledge doesn't come from God?
No.
It does.
No, never an utterance that I made it. So, okay.
It's an inference. It's an inference on his part.
Oh, it's
Not
never
not
just implicit
not
part
only
by
did he
anything.
not only did he not say that Skyout, but he said nothing that should have led you to infer that in any way.
Okay, so now the question is, Skyout, is that back to the question. Other than an argument from incredulity, do you have any type of argument for why the laws of physics depend on your creator?
Yeah, because it points to a mind.
You just
And
said
then-
yeah.
Yeah, it points to a mind, and then abstract objects like the number 7 or the color blue does not create. So the laws of physics points to a mind of creation, the mind of God, who is eternal. And God is existential, he's transcendent. So there's a rational intelligibility of the universe, and God is existential, transcendent intelligibility and intelligence. So there's an origin, a source of creation and knowledge, and there's also certainty. And I can't see how, when you say that your knowledge, that it's irrelevant that the source where it comes from, you can't build epistemological framework on things observable in the world. But we're trying to say that through your senses and reasoning, you don't have an absolute standard. So the things that you can be wrong about are not absolute. It wouldn't make any sense to say that moral laws that you believe in the world are clearly subjective to you because they're not absolute. So because your epistemological framework is a contradiction in terms. You have to be
it's not a contradiction in terms, because you haven't actually asked what my epistemic framework is. But the question here is that you say that the laws of physics are reminiscent of a mind, or indicative of a mind. Oh, how so? How is it that they can't just exist as a brute fact?
Because you have to be logically coherent and logically consistent. And because if I tell you that everything that begins to exist has a cause,
I'm not. We're not talking about how anything begins to exist. We're talking about we're talking about whether or not the law of physics exists as some type of brute fact, as if it's just the nature of reality, just reflective of that.
Yeah, sure. The nature of reality. So that's what happens when you ask me about your epistemology and you ask me about presuppositions. When you abandon God and moral reasoning, you're moving away to your own self-referencing. You're presupposing what you're saying is true.
I'm not presupposing anything. I haven't listened to anything as a presupposition yet. I haven't said that I presuppose anything.
Isn't that a presupposition that you don't presuppose anything?
No.
What?
No, that's not a presupposition.
Skyout, you're 19, right? You're 19. Like you haven't graduated high school yet. I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's not a presupposition. Like, do you know what a presupposition is?
Saying that's not a presupposition is a presupposition that you're not saying it's a presupposition.
That's not a,
Just ask him to define it.
That's not a presupposition. Do you know what a okay, are you going to be, listen, if you're just going to be ignorant, if you don't actually want to learn anything, that's fine, okay? But
I'm just having fun with you. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it's just indicative of somebody who doesn't really have a position, to start acting like this. But let me ask you a question again. Do you know what a presupposition is within epistemology?
Yeah, it's a form of a line of questioning before of argument.
No. It's not. Okay. Wow. So
why don't you look it up then? Because that's exactly what it says.
Well, what are you looking at?
Did you just Google what a presupposition is?
Are you just parodying shit, dude?
No, that's what look up any definition. You can look at an encyclopedia.
No, a presupposition from your point of view means that you assume these biblical, literal translations of things that you've been given without putting anything to the test scientifically or based on any type of evidence. That you just assume it's true without even putting it to the test. So you have to hold these things to be true.
No, you cannot assume a definition is true and argue from that definition. That's a
Go look at the definition I posted in the live chat. That's the definition, whether you like it or not.
So let's try this instead. Okay, is that a lot of times when it was in regard presupposition, if you look up like a lot of stuff in presupposition, you're going to find a lot of stuff referring to linguistics and how linguistics work. So, for example, for the sentence, Jake got fired from his job today. There are presuppositions that are required in that sentence that the communicators have to take on board, such as that there's somebody named Jake, that Jake at one point in time had a job. Okay, now before that you can even make sense of that statement, that those things have to be kind of tactically agreed upon, for that sentence to make sense, for that communication to happen. Now, there's presuppositions in epistemology as well, which generally fall into the grounds of properly basic beliefs. Now, properly basic beliefs are something a little bit different. So maybe just to clarify, just to avoid the confusion here, do you know what a properly basic belief is?
Sure. A proper basic beliefs can mean principles or values or a set of policies or things that go with your principles and your worldview.
Swing and a miss, Cupcake.
No, not quite. Do you want to try again?
No, that's fine. If I got it wrong, that's fine. I mean, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. Everything is from God, so that's my claim.
Well, I mean, with presuppositional apologetics, the main thing that you probably should understand is what a properly basic belief is, because, well, sure. The main goal of presuppositional apologetics is to show that the properly basic beliefs held by anybody that really puts forward a position of foundationalism, depending on which horn of the Munchausen trilemma they fall on, that they can't really justify this stuff. And the Christian that would be arguing for that viewpoint would be throwing themselves on a different horn and arguing in a completely different way, just in a way to try to justify those properly basic beliefs. So it's kind of the foundation of your argument.
Skyout, are you familiar with the Munchausen trilemma?
What? I didn't hear you.
Are you familiar with the Munchausen trilemma that Socka mentioned?
No, not at all.
Okay. So, do you know what?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you know what foundationalism is?
Yeah, foundationalism. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to give me a quick overview for anybody that's watching?
Well, there's different. There's foundationalism. There's coherentism.
I only asked you about foundationalism.
Okay, sure. So about foundationalism, there's also different correspondence of foundationalism. So you have to understand that when you talk about foundationalism, there's different types of it. So one moment.
No, don't worry. Just do you want me to send you a link that you can look up? Well, like a better one to read off of, because.
No. Basically,
did you find it? Okay.
So brilliant.
No, basically, well, we're trying to say that your epistemological framework of foundationalism is irrelevant because you don't have an absolute standard. But we can talk about it. But foundationalism
I'm not a foundationalist.
Who is we, Skyout?
Well, okay, we were talking about foundationalism, but again, you don't have an absolute standard for your epistemological framework. So let's establish that.
That's irrelevant to the question yet. We haven't even established.
So he doesn't have a presuppositional point of view, so he has nothing, right?
Well, he doesn't have any measurement of his absolute standard as an epistemological
Neither
framework.
do you.
Well, mine is from Revelation. I can justify my knowledge.
So yours is from a man-made Bible that basically doesn't have any supported evidence to it.
Okay,
well, let's
try
prove it
if you want to go through it.
Let's start off with the basics. Okay, you want to take this on to the basics, there, Skyout? Okay, all right. What's a belief?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
No, it's a very simple question. We went over this last time.
This is all so that you can establish something so that you guys agree on terms.
Because it's just silly to say like, okay.
No, just give your definition of it and move on. I do all the time.
Do you want me to give...
Let me stop and look it up. If you want to play the let's define terms game.
Do you want me to define it, and you just tell me if you agree or disagree?
Define your philosophical view, because I'm going to argue with you.
Define it and make your point. Otherwise, I'll just Google it. It's pointless.
If you say subset, I'm going to punch you in the face, guy.
a belief is any proposition about reality that we think is true. Okay,
there we go. I agree with that one.
By the way, if you guys don't like this stream right now, I'm going to throat punch you.
Okay, so a belief is any proposition about reality that we think is true. Okay, that's
sure.
So it's generally we can get into theories of truth, but for the sake of this argument, let's assume that I'm pretty sure you're a correspondence theory when it comes to truth, right?
Socka, would you agree that a belief is an assumed truth?
Well, I mean, all beliefs start off as assumed.
Okay,
it's just
and then they would become knowledge if they are evidence based.
If they're justified and actually true.
So factual.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Well, for me, God is a necessary precondition of knowledge. So knowledge comes from a source.
Right, but you don't even know what knowledge is yet. You say, listen, I read the presuppositional cue cards as well. Last time we had this conversation, I asked you to satisfy that claim, to show me some type of argument in which can justify that God is a necessary precondition, and you couldn't do that. So I'm saving you the trouble this time, saving the audience the boring the discussion that led to, and we're just going to try to get down to brass tacks in this one. Okay?
No, I can explain it. I can explain it. Your question assumes truth, which assumes logic, which presupposes reason, which assumes
Hold on
knowledge,
a second.
which presupposes
so truth. Okay, starting off with truth. Truth is, like I said, correspondence theory of truth. Do you deny, or do you have do you use a different model of truth beyond just the correspondence theory?
Well, I agree. Correspondence theory as well as revelation from God.
Okay, so correspondence theory doesn't require God; it just requires a state of affairs in which that exists. That's it.
Yeah, okay, so, I agree.
So a state of affairs exists.
He agrees. End of argument.
So a belief that we form about that is just a belief that we refer to, that we have in regards to the proposition about reality. That's it. Okay, so all right.
Yeah, cool. But you don't know how the reality got here, though.
That doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the question.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because like when we're talking about epistemology, we're trying how we justify knowledge. Okay.
So,
now,
but we
there's ideas that
we can't talk about knowledge.
Hey, Scott, I have a quick question.
We can completely talk about knowledge here. Okay, like what we're trying to do is we're talking about knowledge, but you don't want to talk about knowledge. Okay, you keep on taking it back to points that are irrelevant to the conversation.
You keep using the word irrelevant a lot.
Because he's saying that the arguments that you're making don't align with what you're trying to support.
Yeah, he's nicer than me, Skyout, because I'd be like, you're being fucking stupid.
Yeah,
right.
I would understand that.
All right. So So now we have a belief, okay? Now, in order for that belief to be, considered knowledge, okay? Now, what are the necessary conditions for something that you have to be considered a belief to be qualified also as knowledge?
Evidence. You're welcome.
Well, like I said, it's a contradiction in terms because you're saying that the reality.
Okay, show me the contradiction. Okay.
Yeah, it's a contradiction in terms because when you say you're
no. Okay, just give me the argument for the contradiction.
I'm
not sure what you mean by a contradiction in terms.
I'm trying to. You keep talking, but it's a contradiction in terms when you move away to your self-referencing and you presuppose what you're saying is true, inventing false definitions.
Hold on a second. We haven't talked about presuppositions at all.
Well, that's a presupposition when you said we haven't talked about presuppositions.
No, it's not. That's not a presupposition.
It's a definition of words. It's understanding what words mean so that we can have a coherent conversation.
Right. I mean, if you're using presupposition in the sense of that the tacitly kind of agreed upon parts of a sentence that people have to kind of assume before they can communicate. Is that what you mean by presupposition? Like I said, Jake got fired from his job today. The presuppositions there is that there's somebody named Jake and that at one point in time he had a job. Are we talking about those type of presuppositions?
No, you have to be logically coherent. That's inconsistent and illogical.
Okay, so what's logically inconsistent about anything that I've said so far?
That you don't believe that the things that you said that being about not inconsistent was a presupposition?
Yeah, it's not a presupposition.
Is that a presupposition?
No, that's not a presupposition. No, that's a statement. Okay. All right, so we're gonna move ahead here a little bit because you're having some trouble getting to this part here. So, properly basic belief. Okay, properly basic beliefs are generally held as presuppositions. Okay.
Hey, Socka, real quick. I think he believes that a belief is a presupposition, and he's directly drawing in a correlation between the two. Can you help him understand the difference between belief and presupposition?
Well, there are beliefs out there that are presupposed.
No, but tell him the main difference of what defines a presupposition different than a belief.
A belief would build generally at the start of that interval argument. There'd be nothing supporting it prior. There's no antecedent belief or anything prior to it that would influence that belief.
Okay, so let me simplify it. Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a dick. A presupposition is an assumed truth with zero foundation. Somebody told you that it was true, and you held it to be true with zero evidence, with zero attempt to try to disprove it. You're holding to something true, and you don't know why it's true. You're just presupposing it, no matter what, as if it's a fucking fact. That's the problem with presuppositional beliefs.
Can I ask a question, Skyout?
Yeah, sure.
If you found out tomorrow that God doesn't exist, would you still be able to analyze your environment using your human senses to gather knowledge?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. We don't need to presuppose God. End of argument.
It doesn't, though. It doesn't.
There's a better way to sit there and to sit there and talk about why you believe what you believe, but to hold these presuppositions as if they're concrete in their substance is leaving you with a fragile belief system, and that's why you get bombarded the way that you do, and you're ignorant, and you will not listen to any type of reason from any other worldview.
Well, I think that one of the problems that I'm having here right now is that the empathetic part of me really wants to sit down with Skyout and teach him presuppositional apologetics.
Well, because he's young, and you realize he has stuff to learn.
Well, because most of the time, that I find when you talk with people that like this style of apologetics, is that they're not dealing with a full toolkit. There's little bits and pieces that they've kind of picked up on, and they kind of just try to work that all the time. That's the one angle that they have. But to say that Skyout's toolkit it's not even partially filled. I mean, it's just got pictures of tools. That's it. So, okay. Presuppositional apologetics, okay, starts off with this assumption that every single person is a foundationalist, okay? And on a foundationalist viewpoint, All right. What you believe is that all knowledge is justified by some type of antecedent knowledge. So if I was to make a claim about, like, I know that my car is red, and they ask, well, how do you know that? Well, I know that I can go outside and I can look at it, or I know that I remember it being red, or whatever. Like, there's another piece of knowledge that exists prior to any type of claim out there, or any type of other knowledge out there. So knowledge is always justified by knowledge. Okay. And if you work your way backwards, you're going to come down to what they call properly basic beliefs. And properly basic beliefs are going to be they're not knowledge, because there's no it's merely a belief that has no prior antecedent knowledge to it. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to mention, if you believe that your car is red and it's actually green, is it still true?
No, it's not true.
But you believe it's true that's red, right?
No, my car is blue.
Then why did you say it was red?
Because it's called a fucking example, Skyout. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
I think I was just being funny. I thought it was hilarious. Good.
No, you weren't being funny at all.
Okay, so you work all this knowledge back down, and then you get down to a properly basic belief. Okay, so this is where you get into the Munchausen trilemma, which there's three horns to this. There's your beliefs can terminate in one of three ways. Well, four ways technically, but one of them nobody takes that way. And that is that either one, that there actually is no foundation at all, and every single piece of knowledge just keeps on going on and on and on, and it's always justified by a prior piece of knowledge. Okay, and this is an epistemic system called infinitism. Okay, there's not a lot of few people that advocate for infinitism. All right, not really popular, but it does exist, and we go up and
infinite regress as well. It's called.
Well, that's what it is. It's just it is an infinite regress. Okay. Now the other way is that it just terminates at a properly basic belief, and a properly basic belief is something that just can't be justified with any other antecedent knowledge. So, for example, that the existence of let's go with the reliability of your memory is a good one. You know, the reliability of your memory is a belief that we hold, but you can't know that your memory is reliable, and I'll get back to that in a second. And then the third way is through some type of circular argumentation, which is that a properly basic belief can be justified through itself in a circular way. Now, with this branches off into things like coherentism. All right, but let's take the first one, like the foundationalist viewpoint terminates with a properly basic belief. So what you'll hear with a lot of people say with their foundationalists is that assuming that my presuppositions are correct, or assuming that my properly basic beliefs are correct, I can know things. And that's going to start with, obviously, the tacit admission that their properly basic beliefs could be wrong, and that they are assumptions that are held without any type of antecedent knowledge. But that doesn't make them mere assumptions, because there's actually special criteria that goes into making something a properly basic belief. Do you know what that is?
Non-inferential?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. You could say that they're non-inferential. You could say that a good way to kind of summarize it would be that to assume the negative or the antithesis of that position, you'd actually have to assume that it worked. You know, that's always a good kind of way to show whether or not you're dealing with what I would consider like a properly basic belief. So
there's also, I was going to say, there's also the metaphysics of philosophy that deals with those first principles of those concepts based on reality as well. For me, there's also the etymology of the origins of words, of the meaning behind the words would be the etymology of the words, and there's also the epistemological framework, as you mentioned, in philosophy that talks about the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence of the what I would believe the soteriology of the doctrine of salvation, and the etymology and the eschatology which is concerning the final judgment of the soul and humankind. So, so there's many things about metaphysics and stuff, like foundationalism that you mentioned about foundationalism. To me, is a non-inferential knowledge or justified belief. So it'd be non-inferential for foundationalism to
not really. I mean, let's think of it this way, okay? If I wanted to presuppose that my memory was reliable, how would I justify that? Well, I'd have to think back to every single time that my memory was reliable, and then form an opinion on it based on that. But the problem with that is that you'd have to appeal to your memory to justify that your memory was reliable. Okay, so you can't do that. That seems circular. But what happens if you tried to do the opposite? If you wanted to, if you start off with the assumption that your memory was unreliable, how would you justify that? Well, you'd have to first off assume that your memory was reliable to remember all the times that your memory was unreliable. So you have kind of an inherent contradiction within that. Like that's what I mean when these things are sometimes considered self-evident, because to assume the antithesis of it would be to put yourself into a position of contradiction. So same thing with the validity of logic. How would you show that the logic was not valid? Well, you'd have to show something was logically invalid by assuming that you can form some type of logical inference that would demonstrate it's how invalid it was. So in that case, again, you'd have to assume logic just to show that it wasn't valid at all. And you could do this with a lot of things that probably people hold as properly basic beliefs, but there's generally a few that most foundations will put out there, and that's going to be things like reliability of your memory, reliability of induction, the existence of minds outside of your own or other minds, the existence of external reality. So these are all things that people take as presuppositions if they're a foundationalist. Okay, and that's to simply say that they won't justify them through some type of circular argumentation, so they're going to start them off as assumptions, and from there, that's if their presuppositions are true, then they can make knowledge claims about the world. That's just
quick
foundation viewpoint.
Quick heat check. Socka just recently explained to you what are the three horns of the Munchausen trilemma, Skyout.
I'm sorry, say it again.
As Socka just described to you over the last several minutes, what are the three horns of the Munchausen trilemma? I just want to see if you're paying attention.
Munchausen. I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Brutal, man. This is so brutal.
Let me explain something to you. Here's where you were done, Skyout, and don't take me the wrong way. I don't pretend to be much beyond you at all.
I would be right where you're at now if I was going up in Socka against Socka in this conversation.
Skyout is light years ahead of me, but where you were done is when he asked you to define what a belief was, and you immediately said, "Well, here, let me Google it." You should have been able to, if you're going to have a discussion with somebody like Socka or anybody, or do your presuppositional apologetics, and you can't answer just like that in a snap what a belief is to you,
he had you right there.
You were done there. I mean,
yeah, Skyout, I know you want to say you're undefeated, but you haven't been since you met Socka. Well, you haven't been since you met me. I mean, I wiped the floor with you on Modern Day Debate, and what Socka just did was basically tell you everything about your argument, and you couldn't understand him.
Well, we haven't got around to
it was cutting out a little bit, so that's why I didn't hear him say that one word. I didn't hear him say it. If you want to talk about it now, we can talk about it now.
Skyout, I got news for you. It wasn't the audio that was cutting out.
Okay.
We do have. I do want to recognize that Praise is here too, because I'm sure that he jumped in wanting to jump in with this conversation with Socka. Maybe he can add some. But I don't want to take away from what's going on with Scott, but I just want to recognize that Praise is here as well. So and thank you everybody for being quiet and sticking by. I mean, I hope you're all enjoying this as much as I am.
Without it.
Hey, what up, guys?
I have my own little mic drop moment.
Praise.
Hey, what's up, Skyout?
Yeah, I had to mute because I was fixing something to eat and then I ate it and I didn't want to munch on audio, but I was just rolling laughing on this side, and it's just And the thing is we can find humor in it, but it's not really funny. Skyout, with all sincerity, okay, Socka's having some fun with you, but he really is trying to teach you something.
Like you really like, dude. Mirror this shit, but don't mirror it and put it. You can put it on your channel. I don't expect you to, but mirror this shit and watch it like 10 times a fucking day.
Real quick, Socka, though. Can I respond real quick?
Go for it, man, please.
Because there's a good number of things that cannot be scientifically proven that we're all rational to accept, and there's logic and mathematical truths that can't be proven by science. So science presupposes logic and math. So try to prove them by science would be arguing in a circle. So metaphysical truths like there are other minds other than my own, or the external world is real, or the past was not created 5 minutes ago in an appearance of age, are not rational beliefs that cannot be scientifically proven. So ethical beliefs about statements of value that are not accessible by the scientific method. You can't
we're not talking about ethics actually at this point in time. We're still trying to get down to the core of just what is presuppositional apologetics.
But you realize he just has a script that he runs through this definition of what he believes and why he believes it and how you can't argue against it. That's his problem, is he has an inability to have a Socratic conversation.
So we can have a conversation.
So here's
you're not
the thing,
having a
Scott.
Socratic conversation. You're having a dialogue from a presuppositional point of view to where you have an inability to learn anything new. Because anything that differs from what you believe to be true, you're going to reject automatically without understanding it. You have a zero ability to empathize with Socka account's viewpoint.
I mean, the thing of it is, Skyout, is there was a Socratic conversation going on, but Socka was having it with himself. He was for you, asking questions and answering them at the same time, and you don't want to listen to him.
Well, I don't want to beat up on Skyout too much, and just if there's any points of this that he does find interesting, we can talk about. That's fine. Oh, by the way, I'm doing this while running around and getting groceries, so people are staring at me weird for talking about this as I walk through the aisles.
Flip him the bird.
It's a mustache.
So okay.
You're like a fucking superhero, Socka.
He probably even saved the baby from a burning building when he was talking.
He got up in the tree and took the cat down as he was explaining logic to Skyout.
All right. So this is the thing with presuppositional apologetics now, is that most foundationalists are going to take that thank you, have a good one, that tacit admission that their beliefs start off with properly basic beliefs that are held as assumptions. And this is a problem with foundationalism, because if you define knowledge that in order to know something, you have to, it has to be based on some type of prior antecedent knowledge. Well, why do we make a special exception when it comes to properly basic belief? And this has been one of the biggest problems with this framework for 2,000 years. And so the presuppositionalists have jumped onto this as a philosophical problem that doesn't really have a solution there, because all philosophy does throughout the ages is just highlight the problems, and then they claim a solution to it, which we haven't gotten around to at this point in time, because you haven't proposed it, and I don't want to assume your position. But yeah, so here we are, and a foundationalist has to start off with these assumptions, and in comes the presupposition that says that, well, because you can't justify these things, because you can't justify these properly basic beliefs, that you're building your castle on shaky ground or on sand, or whatever the biblical metaphor is for that, and therefore it's irrational for you to make any type of knowledge claims because of these tacit assumptions that you start with at the beginning. Do you agree with that challenge to foundationalism?
I was just curious of what do you build your castle on? Because you said I build my castle on this presupposition that I may or may, that I probably that you believe that's probably not true. That I'm just building off sand. So what do you build your castle on?
Well, see, in my viewpoint is that I don't like the idea of my beliefs terminating in just an assumption.
Isn't that an assumption that you
So
believe that's not an assumption?
No, that's a conclusion. Okay, there is antecedent knowledge that I have, or antecedent beliefs that come and influence that decision.
Is that an assumption that you believe that? Right?
He was muted. I think he's going right now.
Oh,
All right,
I think
so
we did. Okay, move on.
that'll give me a good chance to read a super chat from NIFB Jesus. Thank you very much for your $10 super chat. And he says, Skyout, come over to atheism. Join the dark side. Join the dark side, young Skywalker. It always wins over fairy tale mythology, and it's a lot more fun, dude. There's no scary sky monster nor a hell. Thank you very much, NIFB. I think you're back now, Socko.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost you there for a minute, Socka.
Yeah, there's always kind of a dark, kind of a bad cell area.
The point we lost you at is the second time Skyout asked if that was an assumption. That's after that we didn't.
Oh, okay. What? Okay, is it an assumption? No, it's not. It's not an assumption. Things that are influenced by antecedent beliefs or knowledge that I have are not just assumptions. Okay, they're influenced by prior
things. I can say the same thing about God, though. I can say the same thing about God. How come I can't say the same thing?
Well, okay, so so when you say that you can say the same thing about God, absolutely, you could hold to a belief in God. That's fine. You know, a lot of people do hold beliefs in God. What's your point?
So how come you don't?
How come I don't hold a belief in God? Because I have antecedent knowledge and other beliefs that make it that the belief in God does not cohere with the set of beliefs that I do have.
Okay, but I'm saying God does exist, and he does that for me. How do you account that he does not?
If you're asserting that God does exist, the burden of proof would be on you.
No, I'm saying you can't have a burden unless God exists to have a burden of proof in the first place.
What?
Yeah, that's that's.
If you are asserting that God is
hold on, Raging. Sorry, man.
Oh no, go for it, Soccer. Because he gets me worked up. I'm sorry.
Okay, do you have an argument that you can demonstrate what you just asserted is true?
That God exists?
No, that God is necessary.
Yeah, the necessary preconditions for epistemology.
Hey guys, I'm gonna read a quick $2 super chat from Taliesin Oberlander. Skyout, reject Christianity and try Islam instead.
Yeah, I was about to thank him, and thank you, Atheist Rational.
What you said, Skyout, that Sokka is asking for justification for is you said there can be no burden of proof without God. That's what you said.
Yeah, you caught that. I'm glad you did. I said there cannot be a burden. You cannot. You said that the burden's on me, and I'm saying unless you start with God, you can't have a burden of proof about anything.
And he's asking you to justify that.
Yeah, can you form that into some type of argumentation, some type of logical syllogism, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, you already have a presupposition that you're going to reject the Bible.
No, I don't have a presupposition.
No, he's simply asking. He's simply asking you, Scott, to in one way or another, if you want to say premise 1, premise 2, conclusion. Give him an argument, give him a rationale for the claim you made.
Okay.
You said there can be no burden of proof without God. So just to give you an example, okay, premise 1, God something, premise 2, you can't have this without, and then you give a conclusion. I mean, you make an argument.
Okay.
They have channels that kind of break it down for you, so you can go and kind of get like an outline next time and come prepared.
No, basically, we're saying that number. If you want to do number 1 is that you cannot recognize truth because evidence assumes truth, which assumes God. So
hold up a second.
If you don't start out with God,
that very first premise of that argument requires something to support it as well, because that just seems like another assertion.
You're begging the question there. Your conclusion is in the premise. You can't have a conclusion within your premise.
No, what I'm basically saying is that people have demonstrated that God exists through logic and reason, and you can't recognize it, which means you don't have an absolute standard in anything you're saying. You're just presupposing what you're saying is true without any good arguments.
That's not an argument which justifies your earlier claim.
But you don't have
that's just another assertion.
What is your absolute standard for making these claims?
The question on the table still remains. You said can be no burden of proof without God. Please give us a justification for that claim.
No. The justification is that God must exist in order to have any form of justification or a claim of justification.
That's another claim.
That's another claim. See, we're asking for you to justify that claim. Okay.
Well,
like when you make a claim, absence of any type of evidence, and we ask you to try to justify that, making another claim, absence of any evidence, generally isn't the best way to do it.
Well, we're Christians are trying to say our evidence comes from the Bible and revelation from God because he's existential, he's transcendent, he has intelligibility and intelligence. So there's a rational intelligibility in the universe. So God is existential, he is existential, he is a spirit. So we receive revelation from God. He's supernatural. He's existential, he's transcendent. So there's a rational intelligibility of the universe, a supernatural, existential, transcendent intelligibility and intelligence. So whenever
sorry, my phone broke up. Can you repeat that again?
I said that
that was a joke.
No, I'll repeat it. I don't give a shit.
Because he's got it written down.
So right, what he's doing. He's reading the tattoo off his forearm.
No, this is not a script. This is off my head, actually. So that's what God is. You asked me for justification. I'm giving you the justification, but you guys just don't.
It's not a justification. It's just another claim.
What
I will say this. I will say this, guy. You have the circularity down, Pat.
Oh yeah, well, we're trying to say that you can't start with circularity unless you start with God first, who has the origin of all circularity.
You said okay. That's the claim. Okay, that's what we're trying to get you to justify.
Did you just speak of yourself in the plural?
Yeah, I'm awesome, dude. I do that sometimes.
What? All right.
I mean, because if you can demonstrate this, that's fine. But I don't really know where else to go if you're just, if your claim that God is necessary for the the necessary precondition for intelligibility, and your argument to support that is that God is a necessary precondition for intelligibility.
I got it.
Then I don't know where we go from that.
Well, can I take my turn? I know where to go from that.
Let me answer that real quick. Where we go from that, you have to understand that God is eternal, and that's how you get out of that regression of where do you stop at, and that's why when you go in a certain.
We haven't. I'm not challenging you on an infinite regression here. I'm asking you to substantiate a claim that you made without just simply restating the claim in a different way. Like that. That's what we're trying to get to.
And I'm saying you cannot recognize the claim that I'm being presented because you don't have a foundation for the claim that I was going to present.
No, okay. Hold on a second. Okay, I could recognize it absolutely because even within your worldview, nothing is denies me the ability to recognize and evaluate claims. You wouldn't say that. It's just that when it comes down to for me to try to justify knowledge is where you think that I'm absent. So putting a challenge and saying that I can't understand it is just vacuous because that's not even in line with what you believe.
Oh, copy, cutting out.
Socka just muted his channel because his wife popped in. Chill out.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Sorry, I'm putting kids to bed right now. Okay, so one quick second here.
I muted myself and I'm speaking. All right, take a deep breath. I'm going to get a breath of fresh air because I'm beyond being nice to Skyout. Praise, I still need to find out if you're a fucking bigot, but I'm gonna go and get a breath of fresh air.
Hey, real quick, I just want to say that Nakasuchi was right earlier. Skyout, you should mirror this on your own channel after the fact and post it as your next comedy hour.
I can tell you for sure it's going to get you a lot more views than that piece of shit.
Oh, you guys are so angry all the time. I think it's funny. It's okay.
I'm not angry at all.
I'm not angry.
Then why are you commenting?
We're not angry. Well, wait a minute. So
where does your source come from?
I don't know why is it required for me to be angry?
Yeah, it's a comment.
I mean, I'm having fun, really.
Exactly.
This is Sokka in his element. I mean, like there's not 1 ounce of anger in Sokka. I can say that most assuredly because what's there to be angry
make
about?
Sokka angry.
Hey, Messenger, you said a minute ago you wanted in, so go for it, bro.
No, I just Sokka, I don't want to. I mean, if you still have more that you want to cover, but you said you don't know where to go from here, but it sounds like you still have more to say.
Yeah, I mean, I could summarize this real skick. So at this point in time, like the issues that we have here, and one of the reasons why Skyout is just that this conversation is a little tedious, is because, like I said, it's an argument but it's incomplete. You know, as far as presuppositional apologetics go, all he's doing is just simply asserting things. He's just stating things. He's going off of a script, and you see this when he says things that don't apply to anything that I've. So the question then comes down to, like, if we're going to do kind of like an evaluation of my worldview and his worldview and different epistemic frameworks, it'd be kind of good to understand what those views are. But I think that he's never bothered to ask anything about what it is that I believe when it comes to epistemic frameworks, and he keeps on trying to go down avenues that have nothing to do with the topic that we're trying to discuss. So that's where it's like,
you keep going. I was interrupting. My bad, dude.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess the question is then, what I tried to do was I tried to explain knowledge on kind of like the foundationalist viewpoint, because that's the viewpoint that he wants to attack. So in that viewpoint, knowledge has to be justified by an antecedent piece of knowledge. And I didn't hear any objections to him on that. So I'm guessing that he agrees with that.
I do, but I'm saying that it's justifiable only through knowledge of a source, of the origins of that source. If you don't know that origin, like you don't know the origin of your epistemological framework.
That's the claim, okay? That's like the third time that you've just kind of reiterated what your claim is. But that means nothing to me. Okay? Well, because it's just an empty assertion at this point in time.
How did the laws of physics come into existence?
It's irrelevant. Like, again, like how they came into existence is that they could be a natural byproduct of the relationship of matter within our universe that was settled at the position, at the point after Planck time when the universe started to cool.
Yeah, but you don't know how the universe got there, right?
And neither do you.
Neither do you.
Universe could have got there through a quantum fluctuation, which the net energy of the universe is 0, in line with Vilenkin's model.
But it still gets everybody to an agnostic viewpoint in the beginning.
Can I just please get an agreement from everybody here that Skyout, you're not allowed to use Matt Powell's stupid physics arguments anymore. Just stop. Just fucking stop. Just please stop with that shit. Go move on to something else. Try something better. It's a strikeout, dude. It's
like I don't even know what it's supposed to establish. Like the idea that you can posit an explanation at the beginning of the universe is like, whoop-de-doo. Like,
but it's not an argument he can answer himself, so it's stupid.
Yeah, like please. Yeah. I wish Steve McCrae was here because he would ask you the perfect question to break down the fucking mathematical equations of the fucking laws of physics, and you wouldn't be able to do it. So just stop with it.
Even the superstars of presuppositional apologetics wouldn't argue what you're arguing, Scott. Even the Klom argument doesn't get to God. Okay, I mean, so
let's
I'm just playing Rich.
Switch this around. Is that Scout? How do you know anything? Like what is it? Sorry, let me try a different way to do this. How is it that you justify knowledge?
I test it.
You test it. How do you test it?
If it works, that's how you know it works.
So what does that framework look like? How do you put something to the test?
Well, apparently he's a full pure imperialist. Like, okay.
No.
Like,
don't assume.
I mean, like that's what he's meaning. So when I ask you,
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean, you can go off of empirical evidence. There's nothing wrong with using science or empirical evidence.
Do you believe the Bible is empirical evidence for you?
No, not for me. No, it would be revelation from God. But if you're talking about science,
When you say
there's
revelation from God, how do you substantiate that?
because God exists and He reveals things to you.
What has he revealed to you that hasn't been revealed through the biblical texts?
Say it again. I'm sorry, you were cutting out. Through what?
What has the Father revealed to you that hasn't been revealed in the text, meaning Old Testament or New Testament writings? What revelation has he given you as a follower of him that is for the empowerment of mankind in the relationship of the covenant?
His word.
No, what is his word? Like, what his word is contained within New Testament and Old Testament. What have you received that's independent of it?
Yes.
No, what have you received? what have you received that's independent of that scripture?
Oh.
I'm cutting that part out. I'm sorry.
Skyout, what Messenger's asking is you just claimed that you personally have received revelation from God, and he's asking you what that revelation was. What revelatory word have you gotten from God that it's extra biblical? You said you personally got it.
Yeah, we all do. It's called eternal life.
Okay, eternal life is discussed
goodness.
in the New Testament. So, what revelation, what new teaching, what profound inference has the Father given you that you couldn't find in the Bible?
What's the lottery numbers going to be tomorrow?
No.
I'm just joking.
042.
At least he tried.
Seriously though, answer the question. I mean, it's a legitimate question.
Yeah, I'm asking you a question. What revelation have you received independent of the Bible or Scripture? And if you've received nothing, just say nothing.
No, I've received other testimony from other people that
a testimony is an individual's own experience with their belief in God and what's happened because of it. I'm not asking about testimony. I'm asking about revelation, because you said revelation from God, and only apostles and prophets. No, let me finish. Only apostles and prophets, as evidenced by your New Testament writings, receive revelation. So if you are inferring that you're a prophet or an apostle, what have you received as new insight or revelation apart from what's already written?
No, there is no assumption that I have revelation apart from what is written. I'm saying the revelation.
You said it.
I will help you out.
Remember the revelation, the revelation of John, which is the final text in the New Testament, is new information. You realize that, right? It's not something that he pulled from previous stuff. It was his own vision as he walked through the heavens. So when you use the term that you've received revelation, you're making an assertion that you've gained something that hasn't previously been given. I'm asking you what that is. Or to retract.
I think you're confused. You're asking. You're confused.
I think you're confused.
I'm not confused. I'm holding you to the words that you've used, and you're either very ignorant about what revelation means. Yeah. And you're just using it to sit there and give your presuppositional belief system, which I think is garbage, because whoever you're ascribing to hasn't helped you be any better than anybody else in the world. But you're using certain terms that I don't think you even understand.
Right.
And it just looks stupid.
And what Messenger is saying here is that you've given a couple examples to special revelation in the form of biblical text. But do you have any examples of general revelation? Like, is there anything that you can present there?
Thank you for clarifying that up, Socka. Because general revelation
pretty fucking clear, dude. Go ahead.
Could mean to have general revelation from either the scriptures or through creation.
That would be special revelation.
Revelation. Creation. Sorry, through creation. Sorry, and the other one would be through the scriptures.
So what does revelation through scripture mean? What does that mean?
At all.
You read a book and you get pictures in your head. It happens.
No, you don't get God. No, you don't get no pictures in your head.
I mean, everybody gets pictures in their head when they read it.
What he's saying is he starts off with the special revelation of the Bible, okay, and then confirms it through general revelation. But then the question the messenger.
Yeah,
But
I got
then
you.
but the question that the messenger is going to put out then at that point in time, which he's already kind of asked you, is there anything that you received through general revelation that wasn't already based on your presupposition of the special revelation of this biblical text? In which case, your answer is no.
It wouldn't be up to me to. I mean, if you want to say no, then yeah. But I believe that everyone has revelation from God through His Word.
But when you say revelation, do you just believe that revelation means understanding?
Like revelation is not reading words in a book.
No, revelation means
Revelation
that
doesn't mean that
God.
you need understanding of a specific text or teaching.
No,
Do you
no,
realize
no.
that? Like
No, no,
revelation is insight and reason and depth of fathoming mysteries that are unknown by most people.
Yeah, like fuck, dude. Do I get revelations every time I pick up the Bible to criticize it?
Without Googling it, Skyout, just like before, just real quick, tell what is
All
your
right, Scott.
what's your thumbnail definition of revelation?
When I was 16, I took acid and Jesus came and I had a conversation. Now, it was the acid, but had it been really Jesus, that would have been a fucking revelation. God damn.
No, it would have been your neighbor named Jesus.
Fuck.
Okay, you know what? Let's just go full tilt in this one here. Scout, do you presuppose the validity of the Bible?
No, I don't presuppose the validity of the Bible.
Okay, so you believe that the Bible is valid as a valid source of information, right?
Skyout, go look at the definition I just posted in the side chat, because I don't think you have a clue what revelation really means, but I just gave you a basic dictionary definition of it that I don't think you get.
Okay, so
Previously
Skyout,
unknown, which means you can't presuppose it.
so Skyout, you don't presuppose the Bible, right? You don't presuppose that the Bible is true?
No, I don't.
Okay. So how do you know that the Bible is true?
Through communication by revelation from God.
Okay. Well, what kind of
Stop
communication?
saying revelation from God.
What kind of communication do you get from God?
Through His Word.
Okay. Hold on, guys. And where do you see His Word?
In the Bible.
Okay. So what you've just said then is that you don't presuppose the Bible is true, but you support that the Bible is true through the fact that it is revealed in the Bible that it's true.
No. I said it reveals from God that it's true.
Where?
Hey, Skyout.
In the Bible. Okay. So I'm asking you, how do you know the Bible is true? You say that.
Are you talking about like Jesus Christ or something like that?
Hold on a second, guys. Pay attention to what he just said. I asked him, do you presuppose that the Bible is true? He says no. And I said, well, how do you know that the Bible is true? He says, through God's revealed word. I say, where is God's revealed word? He says, in the Bible. Yep. So what he's saying is that he knows that the Bible is true because through God's revealed word in the Bible, it says it's true. Well, now, it doesn't take a first-year philosophy student to realize what's wrong with what he just said.
Right. But it's not just that. This is the way. John, let me make this point real quick.
Okay, sure.
Like even if you believe that the Bible is the true, inspired, infallible word of God, so you're saying that the Bible is the word of God, right, Skyout?
Yes.
Okay. Do you hold the true contention that until the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, that the Bible wasn't canonized, right? So
I disagree.
So you don't affirm that the 66 books of the Bible that you hold to be the true, inspired, infallible word of God were brought together in the Nicene Council?
No, I believe it was brought together way before in the 1st century.
So you believe they were brought together in the 1st
what
century?
evidence?
Okay, hold on a second. So if it was brought together in the 1st century, was it before or after John the Baptist's death?
It was after.
Okay, so if the Bible says that in the book of John that the word of God came to John the Baptist in the wilderness, does that mean the Bible came to John the Baptist in the wilderness?
Depends on the context. Is it figurative or is it literal?
No, I'm not. No, you tell me, because you can't ask those questions if you don't know what I'm talking about. Because if the word of God came to John the Baptist and you're saying the word of God is scripture, but scripture didn't exist until after his death, how did it come to him according to what you just said?
Well, I think you kind of have a confusion and distorted view of what the scriptures are.
I'm not talking about scripture. I'm talking about your definition of the word of God.
Yeah, and I'm saying when you ask me questions about the Bible, you have a distorted image of what the scriptures are.
It says in John that the word of God came to John the Baptist in the wilderness. So what does that mean?
Yeah, but you're applying it wrong.
Well, how does it apply?
It applies to God being Trinitarian and not Unitarian.
No. How did the word of God come to John the Baptist in the wilderness?
Through revelation.
So
That's why it's called the Book of Revelation.
John the Baptist
What?
received the Bible ahead of time.
What?
So John the Baptist received the Bible ahead of time.
He received revelation from God.
Okay.
Then you sit through the book of Revelation after.
Yeah,
You just equated John the
that
Baptist.
John the Baptist,
Oh my fucking god!
that anybody who enters the kingdom of heaven is greater than John the Baptist.
Like you do understand that Messenger is a Christian, right, Skyout? Like he's a Christian.
He's a Unitarian. He's not a Christian.
Okay. So I guess like just to put Skyout and his presupposition little apologetics in the grave once and for all.
You did that a long time ago, but go for it, Scott.
Okay. Do you believe that you have to presuppose that the Bible is true and the revelation contained within the Bible is true prior to making any knowledge claims about reality?
No, I don't know. I don't choose to believe in God. It's God that reveals things to me. I wouldn't believe in God either if he didn't reveal to me.
Okay. Do you believe that knowledge is impossible without first presupposing that the Word of God is true?
Is knowledge impossible if the Word of God is true?
Do you believe that it is impossible to make knowledge claims about reality without presupposing the Christian God?
No, I don't think it's impossible.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Wait a minute.
There we go. Any argument that he made is just stupid at this point in time.
It's just right out the window.
I'd like to, address that from my point of view. It might be a little different.
Please praise.
Empiricism, rationalism, and revelational epistemology is what leads to our ontological truths. So, God has given us this general revelation through our senses. Yeah, you can use our senses through our rationality, and then revelational epistemology, which leads to the ontological truth. So there you go.
Do you presuppose that God has given you the reliability of your senses?
No, but we do presuppose the. I said before it was. Oh gosh, I hate freaking. It's gosh, I forgot what it was, but it's like you have to presuppose the in logic, like you would have to presuppose the gosh, I hate when I'm hanging when I'm trying to think of something.
Yeah, so you have to presuppose logic.
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to think of.
You stepped up the fire, praise, and now.
Gosh, man, I hate when I'm like hanging on something.
No, that's fine. So there are certain presuppositions that you hold in your worldview.
Okay, I got it. The preconditions. Okay. Yeah, we need in order to have a rational belief. I mean, for God to be the grounds or basis for our beliefs, we still need the preconditions for intelligibility, or even epistemology.
What are the preconditions for intelligibility?
It would have to be the mind of God.
Okay.
The Logos.
Okay, why is God the precondition for intelligibility? What are the qualities that God has that makes him the necessary preconditions for? Okay, that's a better way to put this. Okay, actually, I guess to start off, we'll go back to the original question. What are the necessary preconditions for intelligibility?
And it's this is where it becomes circular, but God is transcendent. His nature, he has a logical nature that is eternal, and he also and he reflects his truths through his logical nature.
Does Messenger Reveal have a logical nature?
Messenger Revealed, it's certainly not transcendent. It would be arbitrary.
Why would it be arbitrary? What makes it arbitrary? Are you saying that at any moment that he can choose to not be logically consistent, that he can be the Messenger Reveals and not the Messenger Reveals at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that that anything can be what it is and what it isn't at the same time, with unless they're God.
Yes.
You disregarded one of the laws of logic, but go ahead.
You're
Yeah,
doing
for instance,
style praise. It's better.
well, I mean, for instance, the law of non-contradiction. You can't have something
You just violated that law with what you claimed about Messenger.
So let me put it this way: you talked about ontology. Like there's like the state of reality as it is. Okay, and the moment that there's an object in reality, that's what it is. It's an object. Okay. Now, when we use logical inference as a tool in which that we can communicate what that object is, we label it as that collection of what we see over there is A. Okay, so that's a cat. Okay, so when we're looking at that, we use logic is a kind of this constructed kind of like I said, inference tools, and that's in order for us to communicate these ideas. All right, so that's one way that we can look at logic. So logic allows communication to happen. So when I say there's a cat over there, we know what we're talking about. Because there is a kind of a communicative there's a word that we associate with cat. And so we point to it and say, hey, that's a cat. Everybody knows what that is. And, that's the principles of logic that we're talking about here allow for this communication, that when we point to this object, we know exactly what it is. Now, these are inference tools that we use to essentially just ground communication. Okay, there's nothing really, transcendent or kind of amazing about them. It's just that once something actually exists in reality, that has and we need to communicate that idea, that we will communicate it through, whichever way we want. Okay. Now, I'm trying to understand what you're saying here. Like, are you saying that communication is impossible because if a God didn't exist, that something that is a cat that has, this actual existence of, being a cat can all of a sudden morph into something that's not a cat? Is that what you're saying? That if a God didn't exist, that a cat can morph into something that's not a cat?
Well, you can't justify it's a cat without God, and only God can bring rationality to existence. Why? Or
why is that the case? Like I said, if there's a state of affairs where something exists, it has certain properties that we associate for the sake of communication with being a cat. Okay, and so when we talk about the principles of logic, we're talking about inference tools of communication. Okay, the communication is useless without these principles of logic. And so these things aren't things that exist in some type of weird transcendental nature out there that these like laws of physics that are maintaining the catness of that object so it doesn't morph into a dog. These are things that we discover as not really discover, but more of invent as inference tools for communication. There's nothing mystical about them.
And just to add something real quick to go back to when Socka asked you about Messenger. What you essentially said about Messenger was that he could be a cat and not a cat at the same time. So
I might have misunderstood the question. Like that wasn't really what I was trying to say.
Right. So what I'm saying is that so there's a couple different avenues that we can go back and kind of understand this now. If you're saying that that these laws of logic, as you call them, or principles of logic, are these actual transcendental forces that are kind of kind of holding the aspects of the universe together. Well, I reject that. I reject that notion. I think that once that something exists, it exists, and then the principles of logic are only the applicable tools that we use to communicate those ideas to other people. So that I would say that the principles of logic exist as a necessary precondition for language, but there are these things that are kind of invented upon by humans to explain these things. They don't actually exist outside.
Sorry to interject very quick. Hey, Skyout, I know you're typing in the Hangouts chat, but why not put that in the live chat for everybody else to see?
I thought everyone could see that.
No, that's just in here. It's internal.
Yeah,
I can't even see it. I'm on my mobile.
And hey, Nakasuchi, Skyout says in the side chat here that the mask on his avatar represents sins and wickedness in the world and our rebellion against God.
Yeah, that's funny. He told me it represented me.
So, the praise. I guess that the question is like that I'm trying to get at here.
He also said earlier that it represented trans people. So
yeah. He said earlier it was what trannies was the word, right?
Yeah.
No,
a typo version of it. It was still the slur, but
right. So I guess that the issue that I'm having, praise, is that this idea that that you're putting forward, these necessary preconditions for intelligibility. Well, I agree that they're necessary for communication, and I guess for understanding these things. But I don't understand how this requires them to have some type of transcendental nature, other than human inventions, so we can better explain communication, or so we can have communication.
I'll explain it this way. Like, the law of gravity doesn't tell us what to think, not how to think, or the right way to think, or how to come to true statements by inductive or deductive or abductive reasoning. So all these conceptual laws reflect the mind of a lawgiver, and this is what it validates itself with the preconditions of intelligibility, is because we have the conceptual laws reflect the mind of a lawgiver. So that's how I can ground them.
But that's just a claim.
Again, I don't see how that's necessary. Like I said, I explained already that as long as if a reality existed, let's assume a reality existed where there was a single atom. There was no God, no people, no nothing. But there was a reality that existed, which is a single atom within it. Would that thing be an atom and not an atom at the same time?
No, that would violate the law of non-contradiction.
Right. So regardless of whether God existed, once there's actually a reality is actualized where something exists within it, it has a certain characteristics or quality or a label that we put on it when we're trying to communicate that idea. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So if we are social beings that rely on things like communication and that language develops, that principles of logic would be completely applicable to how we would form language structure, right?
Right.
So the principles of logic aren't anything that would be mystical or these natural parts of the universe that just kind of exist, but more kind of like I said, inference tools that allow us to communicate the state about what's actually actualized in reality.
Yeah, but you can't go into a lab and find the law of non-contradiction, though.
Well, yes, you can. Whenever you have to communicate an idea, that's where you're going to find these principles of logic. Because principles of logic, like I said,
under a microscope, you're not going to find. You can't extract the law of non-contradiction, anything material.
Right.
So it has
because
to be immaterial.
With most human constructed systems, that's how it works. So, for example, mathematics doesn't exist outside of human systems as well. Like we've developed mathematics, standard arithmetic essentially as a language. You can't go into a lab and find an essence of 7-ish because it doesn't exist. It's just a complete construct that we made up to explain ideas. So could you imagine if you had to communicate something? For example, what's it mean to say that I have 3 sheep? Okay, if you're trying to communicate the idea of 3 sheep, is threeness a quality of those sheep? Well, I would say no, it's not. Threeness isn't the quality at all that we apply to anything. It doesn't exist in some type of abstract form or anything like that. What it is that it's a shortcut for communication. So if I wanted to communicate to Raging that I had 3 sheep, but there was no arithmetic or no concept of numbers, I would say, hey, look over my field. I have a sheep, a sheep, a sheep. Okay, now I can do that because I'm pointing to 3 objects out there and I'm just labeling them as what they are. It's a sheep, a sheep, a sheep. But if I wanted to, what happens if I have 100 sheeps? Could you imagine how communication would be at that point in time? It's like, hey, Raging, look at my field. I have a sheep, 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 a sheep for 100 times. Well, that's just not useful to communication. So we've developed a system of arithmetic and numbers to actually expedite, conversations that we have. So that when we're referring to a multitude of something, we can just come up with this arbitrary designation, which we call 100 or 3 or 7 or whatever, to better communicate what our ideas are. That's all it is. There's something that exists, in some type of mystical form for that.
Yeah, well, here's another inference that I think reflects the mind of God, is they're prescriptive. Truths are prescriptive. And also, you can even say logic is prescriptive. Like if you're going to say, let's say if I say the sky right now is green outside, and you would say that is untrue or that is illogical. Or if I was going to say it's green and purple at the same time, you could say, well, that's illogical, and that's a prescriptive inference to God. I mean, that's where it comes from. Is from these prescriptions come from God, and this is the same with truth as well.
Sorry,
Wow,
I got disconnected there for a second.
I was going to say you multiplied there for a second. It was really weird.
Yeah, I heard what you were saying though.
Okay.
But it's not that. So I'm not sure how you get the big step to God there within that conversation, because again, when we're communicating ideas, it just we can form sentences with contradictions all the time, but they become vacuous. They nonsensical. If I say that cat is 100% black and 100% white, what does that mean? Like it just it's illogical in that way, because you're communicating two different ideas that seem contrary to each other. So the issue with contradictions, and why contradictions are a problem, is because they're uninformative for communication. That's all it is. It's uninformative for communication. That's why contradictions can't exist. If I was to say that this is a cigarette and not a cigarette, at the same time, it's a contradiction. But the problem with it isn't necessarily just that it's a contradiction. It's because it's uninformative. Because you're putting forward a proposition, an idea, and then immediately retracting it. So you're not actually communicating anything at this point in time.
Yeah, but where does the prescriptiveness come from, though?
The prescriptiveness,
you just said like a cigarette and a cigarette at the same time. That is by definition illogical, but it's also prescriptive. So you would tell someone probably to not think that way, because that would be illogical. So that's prescriptive.
It would be descriptive of that sentence in that way. But if you're talking about prescriptive in the way that if you're saying that these laws have to be this way because so to the prescriptive aspect of it is that a cat is made in such a way that it's a cat and cat be not a cat at the same time. Again, this goes back to the Adam example. It's not prescriptive in that sense. There's nothing that's prescribing it, that's making it this way. It's just that this is the label that we put on these things when they meet that criteria. When something has exists in such a form that we can label it, we are labeling it through a kind of like a descriptive sense. There's nothing prescribing it to be that way and nothing else.
Yeah, but I mean, if I conceded that you have it's a dichotomy though. It's either material or immaterial, and there's nothing you can really ever appeal to in nature that would allow prescriptiveness to come from physical laws.
No,
physical laws don't impose themselves on it.
Okay, I said it would be descriptive, but also like the thing is that it would. I'm not sure how you can say it was immaterial. If these are concepts that are dependent on the human mind,
or they're conceptual. They
only exist by virtue of the fact that there are minds that conceive of them. Okay, so it is the case that a rock would exist as a rock, regardless of whether there is minds to perceive it or not. For us to talk about that rock, to conceptualize it or to give it the name and label of a rock, requires some minds to conceptualize language and communication that would allow us to describe it as a rock and not describe it as a rock and not a rock at the same time.
Yeah, but are you saying that, let's say, a rock cannot be a non-rock at the same time? Are you saying that was not a priori? Are you saying humans could only make that true? I don't see any basis for that claim. I mean, it's immutable. It's an immutable truth. Truth is immutable. It doesn't matter if humans make that case or not.
Well, the mass of matter would exist. Okay. Now we label it as a rock, and when we're communicating the idea, again, we're talking about this. This is our ability to communicate this. So when we say the principles of logic or inference tools that we use to communicate, it means that when we say that something's a rock, we're not going to change that meaning of a rock, midway through the sentence, because we wouldn't be able to communicate ideas that way. But, absent our ability to label these things and to talk about them using these conceptualized notions of logic, that the rock exists as a mass of matter in some form, and that mass would be not changing. It would still be the same, regardless of whether that we were around to conceptualize it or not. Now, if what you're proposing is not just that logic is these tools that we use for communication, but actually that there has to be a force present that's maintaining the status of things in the forms that they are, well, that's just a premise that I just reject. I don't see any good reason to believe why it would be necessary that there has to be a conscious mind constantly thinking of every single object in the universe so it doesn't morph into something else.
Yeah, to me, the way I look at it, these are just abstract entities. They're not dependent on human minds. They're not dependent on anything physical. They're eternal, and they reflect something. They have to reflect something, and they have logical properties. So, to me, it necessarily shows that in the God.
Like I said, logic, like principles of logic, are like I said, these are inference tools that we use for communication. Okay, the actual properties, quality that that will hold that status of that object in reality. The moment that reality is there and that object is there, that's just it's just an object in reality. It's when we have the ability to communicate and kind of conceptualize this and try to communicate this idea to other people, is when we apply principles of logic just to ease the communication. But if you're saying that like logic as like some type of transcendental force that exists in the universe that's holding things in the forms that they are so they can't change, well, there's no reason to believe that. There's no reason to believe that these logical laws, as you put them, are actually laws of the universe themselves, where they have to be maintained by some type of logic maintainer. They're just things are what they are in reality.
Well, not a logic maintainer. They reflect a logical mind. They just reflect. They're reflections of a logical mind.
Well, then who cares? Like, yeah, whether there's now you're just saying that they're a reflection of a logical mind, but that mind doesn't actually have to be there. So it's unnecessary. If that mind was there, then yeah, it would be a reflection of it, but it's not required for these things to exist in the first place.
I don't see any basis for that because we don't govern logic. Logic governs us. So it's transcendent
we
from
use logic as inference tools so we can communicate. There's nothing that governs us. Like I said, like the state of affairs of reality is such that I can't morph into a cat. Okay. Again, if your argument is that in a universe without God, I can morph into an object, a different object, or I can be Socka count and not Socka count at the same time, there's no reason to believe that such a universe exists. Here's the funny thing about logic. Okay, you can say, for example, that what's a good example for this? If the oceans are red, the sun is made of cream cheese. Okay, the oceans are red, therefore the sun is made of cream cheese. Now that's a logical syllogism. That's logically valid, for kind of explaining the case of the sun there. But it doesn't that logic that doesn't actually describe our reality. It describes a possible reality out there. But
it's valid, but not sound.
It's valid, but it's not sound because it doesn't actually reflect like our reality. It doesn't, there's something that we can kind of map to here. But that's kind of a weird example. But just follow me on this one. Is that logic? Okay, these logical inferences that we make that's about reality would be true of every possible reality that we can imagine. Okay, in every possible reality for us to communicate these ideas, even realities where God doesn't exist, we can still form kind of logical inferences about these potential realities. Okay, so logic doesn't just apply to our reality, or it would apply to all possible realities that we can kind of conceive, including, like I said, all the realities where God doesn't exist. So if logic applies to all possible realities, well, then it's unremarkable that it also applies to how we communicate about our reality.
Yeah, well, to me, logical truth exists whether there is a human mind to recognize them or formulate them into axioms or not. These are axioms. Truth and logic are axioms, so they're not human constructs at all, and that's where your argument fails.
No, I don't see how my argument fails. When you want to talk about them as axiomatic beliefs, that's because the reason why we hold them as axiomatic is because that to validate logic or to show that logic is valid, there would be no antecedent type of knowledge as you could have prior to that. This is if you want to arrange like your beliefs like on a foundationalist framework where you have to start with basic beliefs, then yes, logic would absolutely, or the validity of logic would have to be one of those presuppositions or foundational beliefs or properly basic belief or axiomatic beliefs, whatever you want to call it, that would start at the base of that upside down pyramid that leads into any other knowledge claim that you have. But that's only because logic is the construct of logic itself and its validity isn't based on any type of antecedent, like I said, knowledge out there. And that we could almost say that it's a self-evident truth because there's no way to invalidate logic. If you wanted to invalidate logic, in any type of communication, you'd have to first assume the validity of it, because the only way that you can invalidate logic would be to show through a logical syllogism that it was invalid.
Okay, do you believe truths are immutable, or do you believe they are mutable? I think it got cut off or something.
All right. Just real quick, I'm going to address something. I'm actually paying attention a little bit to the chat. So I don't like bigotry. I don't like hate comments, but I also want to have some kind of a constructive conversation in the chat. And if you're attacking one of my friends and calling him names and fucking pussy and this and that, well, yeah, I have a problem with that. Carry on.
Okay, sorry about that. My wife was talking to me. Well, what did you ask?
Is truth immutable or is it mutable?
So you mean like unchanging?
Yeah, is
well, let me ask you a
truth?
question. Is it true that it's Sunday? Well, on the West Coast.
Yes.
It is true that it is Sunday. Okay. Is it tomorrow? If I make the statement or ask the question, is it true that it's Sunday? Will it still be true?
No.
Okay. Does that make truth mutable?
No, because you're just changing the truth. I mean, you're just changing the parameters of the truth. Like it's just changing from one parameter to another parameter.
Okay, so in that sense, when we're talking about truth, then is that I would say that truth is binary. Okay, is that something is either true or it is not true. Okay, it can't be true and not true at the same time. But truth does change. Like a statement that might be true now might be not true tomorrow. Okay, so but like the truth is just is if it corresponds to an aspect of reality, that's what we say it's true. But reality does in fact change and move, especially in the way that we kind of communicate ideas about it. So again, I guess I'm not quite sure exactly what you're trying to get at.
Okay, like let's say 2 + 2 is 4.
Well, praise. Well, I think what you said a minute ago, though, praise. What it is that if something is true, then yes, it's immutable. But
there you go. That's my point. If 2 + 2 = 4, is there an expiration date on that claim? I mean, on that truth?
Okay, so do you know the difference between analytical and synthetic truths?
No, I haven't really investigated that. No.
Okay, so analytical truths versus synthetic truths. Think of this like a priori. Did you know a priori versus posteriori?
Yes.
Okay, so when something is taken a priori, it's taken before the fact. Okay, so you don't actually have to investigate the world. Okay, this is the way to put it. Is that I could be sitting at my kitchen table right now, and I can know that that it's true that there are no married bachelors. I can know that it's true that 2 + 2 is 4, because those things are analytical truths. Okay, they're taken a priori before anything else. Sorry, the washing machine just kicked in behind me. Is there a lot of background noise for me?
No,
No.
it's all coming from atheist rationale.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so so an analytical truth, I can be sitting at my kitchen table and know that I'm never going to go anywhere in the universe where I'm going to find a married bachelor or a place where 2 + 2 isn't 4, because those things are almost true by definition. Like I said, mathematics is one of those things. It's and mathematics doesn't exist in some type of abstract, Platonistic form. Like numbers don't exist in some type of Platonic reality. These are constructs that we create to basically that are kind of express some ideas out there. It communicates in mathematics in a different kind of language. Okay, so this is all basically analytical. It's true by definition, or true by construct, because we make it that way. A synthetic truth, on the other hand, is a truth that is you'd actually have to go out into and discover things about the world. So it's true that my car is blue, or let's not confuse Skyout here, and I'll actually use the actual color of my car. My car is blue is a truth about reality, but it's a synthetic truth. Like in order for you to discover that about the world, you're going to go out and you have to find my car and kind of observe it yourself. Or like that all swans are white, for example, would be something, again, that's a synthetic truth. It's actually not true at all. It's actually false, but it would have been held as a synthetic truth, and synthetic truths can be shown to be false, in which case they're just not true anymore.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. Well, I appreciate the conversation tonight. I probably have to getting it going here, but I appreciate the invite, Raging, and invite me some other time. I'd like to join in.
Yeah, and we'll have to talk about that debate with Jill and Jim Majors, and I've already talked about it a little bit with James. So we'll come up with the topic and decide a date and all that. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, can I say something to Praise before he leaves?
You did better in Skyout. I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say. Yeah, I was just going to say I wanted to commend Praise, because he actually engaged. That. Well, no, because you actually engaged Socka. You listened to what he was saying and you responded to what he was saying. Skyout did none of that.
Yeah, you did much better. I mean, I think. I mean, I'm biased, you know me, Praise, but I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But I do think I didn't get a chance to ask you about bigotry, so we need to have like a one-on-one so I can find out your stances and I hope I.
Oh my goodness!
Can like you. I hope I can like you.
Yeah,
I like Praise. I thought it was a good talk, Praise.
Yeah, good talk, man. I appreciate it. The conversation. I'd like to continue with it some other time.
That was an excellent. That was excellent.
Skyout wants a round 2 with Dragnauct.
Later, guys.
Have a good one.
All right, man. Dragnauct, you can come in.
Take care, man.
Skyout, I'm fairly certain Dragnaught said he was done talking to stupid.
Yeah, he says that about everyone, dude. Because he's just so ignorant about what he doesn't even understand.
So you know Dragnaught well enough to say what he knows about everyone.
All he does is make videos about G-Man.
Oh, I'm fairly certain he knows something about like biology or whatever he's going to school to learn. Biology, right, Socka?
Yeah, I saw him do like a really cool science video a while back. I forgot what it was specifically because it was a little while ago, but Drag does more than just G-Man shit.
Hey, Knock, can I
Dragnaught just said, Skyout stupid. I still talk to G-Man.
Hey, Knock, is it all right if I ask Socka something real quick?
Oh, yeah, go for it, John.
Yeah, hey, Socka, so you just had 2 different conversations with 2 different people. Could you just give us a thumbnail of the differences between those 2 conversations?
Well, I think with Praise, it was a very genuine conversation. Like same thing. Like he's not looking for a win, and it turned into a decent discussion, about different views that we have, and when there were certain things that we were able to go into a little more detail on, he was very receptive to the ideas. To my viewpoints. Now, I mean, like in a future conversation, like if he goes and he'll look into some of this stuff a little bit more, he might push back on some of the things that I said. Like when I talk about logic as inference tools for communication, that's a position that I hold and that a lot of people hold. But it's definitely something that some people would push back on.
I'm gonna find Drag and get Drag in here. Go ahead, Socka. Sorry.
But then also, I mean, like for Skyout, I think that the issue with Skyout is that, like I said, I don't think it's really hard for him for me to understand how he thinks that he can win a conversation. Well, first off, because most rational people don't try to win conversations. But on top of that is that I don't know what his finish line is, because I don't know what his actual position is. I've talked to a lot of presuppositionalists in my time online here. A lot of them are really informative. Some of them have me thinking. Some people have me change some of the positions that I hold, or change the style in which I approach some of the discussions. Scout hasn't done any of that. Like I said, it's like I could, if I wanted to do presup as a style of apologetics on any person in this room, I can probably do it better than Scout can. So like it's really hard to have a conversation with him, because the conversation never gets off the ground. He has one assertion that he kind of holds to, and never does anything to try to validate or justify it at all. And when you try to dive into the topic that it kind of that's based off, you can't really nail him down on anything, because he's jumping around to laws of physics and just all over the place. He's
I'm sensing a little fear in your voice, actually.
Listen, present me an argument, okay? Like, I have no idea, like, what your position is. Like, I'm here right now. Like,
full on
Dunning-Kruger
effects, guy. Full on Dunning-Kruger.
Like, if you want to try to show me the error of my worldview, then that's what I'm here for. But you haven't yet. In fact, you've been floundering the entire time. Like, I want to help you out. How about this, Skyle? Let's turn this into more of a let's build up Skyle's argument here, okay?
How do it Socratically?
Like, yeah, like I really want to help you out here, bud. Okay, like, do you have any questions that that I can help you to improve your style of argumentation?
I was gonna go ahead, just hear me out for a moment, for me, like 30 seconds, and then you can
I'm the best there ever was. I've won all my debates.
Oh,
undefeated.
Yeah, but maybe I don't know.
Oh, he wasn't talking about himself. Never mind.
Give me like 30 seconds, and then you can say whatever you want. Is that cool? Yeah. All right. So basically, if you go by like the atheism that I go by, that I study, like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett, they basically agree that on the atheistic view, you're just a relatively advanced primate. So under Darwinian evolution by natural selection, you're nothing but an advanced primate from complex sociology and biology. So it's the same human behavior on this atheistic view. We're just relatively advanced primates. There really isn't an objective right or wrong. It's just evolution. So when you make statements and you're going to say an atheist and you're going to talk about epistemology, according to Richard Dawkins, it's our brains are nothing but a mindless, unguided process. So that it would be nothing but that's what it means by evolution. It's just it spins off of sociobiological evolution by what Richard Dawkins says, that there is no God, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no moral values, so there's no way to make objective statements or values of statements if there's no absolute. So that's why when you and Praise got stuck on the be or not be, you guys are actually arguing if it's absolute, whether or not it's be or not be, or can be or be at the same time, basically. Okay. So, no, you can go ahead now if you're getting tired of it.
Okay, Scott, just real quick, I just want to say that what you just said over the last 30 seconds was words strung together that essentially meant nothing.
I called it about 45 minutes ago.
We're going to go through these points. I kind of dropped them off the side here. Okay. So first off,
I thought it was awesome. That's all.
Richard Dawkins is probably the last person that you'd want to go to for philosophy. That's fine. Okay. So, like he's an evolutionary biologist. Like he's not a philosopher. Okay, but to the points that you brought up here, are we advanced primates? Yes. By basic taxonomy, the way that we're labeled in science is that yes, we are, a type of primate. Okay. That's just, who cares? Who cares if we're an advanced primate? That doesn't really mean anything. There's nothing in evolution. There's nothing that's more advanced unless we're actually doing an actual comparison to, some type of function they have. Like, so for example, a fish is an advanced swimmer compared to us. Doesn't who cares? If we're talking about cognitive capabilities, then we're advanced compared to other primates. If it comes down to
that's my point though. On the
hold
Richard
on.
Dawkins.
Can I finish mine? Okay. Like I said, I can't remember who said it, but it's like if you rate intelligence by ability to climb a tree, fish will think they're stupid. You know, like it doesn't matter. Like yes, we're primates, big deal. But to the idea about morals and ethics. Okay, I'm not sure how we jump from epistemology to morals and ethics, but okay, cool, whatever. Now there are. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Dragnauct. You have some competition in the house, man.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Let's continue.
Tattoo, nice. Morals and ethics. Again, if Richard Dawkins says that there's no objective right or wrong, again, I wouldn't go to Richard Dawkins for my moral philosophy. Now, as it is, I'm a moral anti-realist in that position. If you want me to, maybe if you want, you can, come next time we talk. We can talk about different moral systems between realism and anti-realist, but it doesn't really matter. There are moral realist systems where people believe that there is objective moral truths out there that aren't grounded in any type of God. They can be, such as, you can get into like virtue ethics is one of them. There's some consequentialist systems that are considered moral realist systems. There are not every single person who is a moral relativist or a moral nihilist, which is kind of a common misconception that a lot of theists have about Christians. So yeah, you know what? I'm not sure why you think that just because we are
Ivory.
I can't concentrate with these two guys.
I'm sorry. Well, I want to kind of address something just overall here. Skyout, do you realize that when you're launching into this tirade, that none of the people that you're describing aren't in this actual hangout? You do realize that?
Well, that's a contradiction in terms.
Oh my goodness! It's not a contradiction.
What do you? Okay. I've literally made the statement that the people that you named are not here. Is Richard Dawkins in this hangout right now?
That's a contradiction in terms.
Okay, it's a yes or no.
Contradiction in terms?
It's a yes or no.
Not even
Is
relevant.
Richard Dawkins in this hangout right now?
Yeah. What terms did he say were contradictory? Like when did he put out A and not A in that sentence? Did he say that Richard Dawkins is here and not here?
He sure
Well, no,
did.
that would be
P and not
be
P.
inconsistent and illogical.
Okay, so we're just moving on. Okay, so when you say that we're mindless, unguided process, just like brain process here. We are bags of chemicals. Okay, but it's a fallacy of composition to believe that big chemicals can't have derived thoughts or cognitive thoughts or moral values or anything from that. So let's just face in this another fallacy. That there's no moral values. Again, like I said, there's moral realist systems that exist out there. I'm giving you the term moral realism. Go look up moral realism, and you can see that there's a lot of different systems out there that don't require a God. That are been advocated for in philosophy for over 2,000 years. Let's see, no absolutes. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about when it comes to absolutes. If you're talking about something,
I can actually. His thing is that he gauges the veracity of claims. So let's say if we're taking claims on a propositional basis, right? It's either P or not P. He gauges P or not P in relation to them also being absolute. Now, if you ask him for his definition and how does that actually play into the veracity of the claim, he will on the one hand say that the veracity of the claim is based on whether or not you can also claim it's absolute. But then, okay, you need that justification, which also you need his God. But if you ask him to actually demonstrate it, what's the difference between this being absolutely true versus true, he'll say that there's exactly the same. So there's no demonstrable difference between the two. And so you get back to what's the utility of it, and then he'll go back to saying that you need it.
Yeah, okay, so that's just silly.
Yeah,
there's a state of affairs that's like, so when something reflects the state of affairs or when something reflects a reality, we say it's true. That was the correspondence theory of truth we talked about earlier. That's what he agreed upon. Why he requires an absolute beyond that is just contradictory to his terms, as he put forward earlier.
Can I clarify something? Yeah, I was going to clarify something about the argument because I think it's leading to misunderstanding. The argument is not the belief in God is like necessary in order to be a good person or live a moral life or be a decent chap. It's like
morality.
I'm getting into it. The argument has nothing to do about the belief in God. The argument is that without God, there isn't any absolute standard of right and wrong. And what you call moral values are just your spins off of socio-biological evolution. So on the atheistic view, that's all moral values are. You're unwilling to accept the idea that anything exists beyond nature. That's begging the question in favor of atheism. That is presupposing that atheism is true without any good evidence.
Oh.
You have to be logically consistent.
Okay,
so a circular argument.
You obviously didn't understand what any of us were talking about.
Yeah.
It's quite clear you didn't understand.
Yeah, so
no. I was going to
it's not a circular argument. Okay, it's not a circular argument unless you're one of your the conclusion that you're trying to get at is therefore atheism is true. There like I said, there's moral realist systems out there that don't require a God, but they don't start off with the premise of the argument being no God exists. Okay, it's just that they measure objective moral truths in a way that you probably might not agree with, but unless I've actually kind of looked up on moral realism, then I really don't know where to go with that conversation with you. So I mean, it's just demonstrably wrong what you're saying.
Hey, Skyout, Dragnauct asked you a few minutes ago if Richard Dawkins was here. Are you here right now?
Is Richard Dawkins here?
No, I'm asking. He asked you about Richard Dawkins. I'm asking, are you here right now?
Do you think I'm here right now?
I'm not really sure right now.
Are you wearing your mask?
Yeah, I'm totally wearing my mask.
Okay, so part of your issue, Skyout, is that you're arguing with straw atheists. Every time you get in a conversation, this is why you're honestly not worth anyone's time. Well, irony of me saying that and dealing with G-Man, but you're arguing against, and you said this you actually prefaced your statement and said the way that I define atheism. Let me be abundantly clear. No one gives a shit how you define atheism. Okay, it has a perfectly good definition that many people already abide by. No one needs to argue with you over straw atheism. At no point in time are any of us arguing with you over straw atheism. Okay, it's better if you actually take the time and listen to what the fuck people are saying, because you obviously can't follow along with what folks are saying because you're too busy trying to put forth straw atheism.
Yeah, but you are an atheist, though. Is that not true?
Now, I'm going to qualify this by saying, yes, I'm not a reductionist. No, I don't agree with Richard Dawkins on his philosophy. I don't give a shit what Daniel Dennett has to say or any of the people that you mentioned. Now continue.
Okay, basically the most. Okay, I won't talk about them if you don't like.
You were literally just about to go into it.
But basically, most atheists that I spoke to, they assert that there's no proof that God exists. But the problem is that atheists logically cannot make that claim. In order to state that there's
it's really easy.
Hold on for a second. Hold on. Does every atheist have the same epistemic basis?
Well, let me finish, please. I was going to say, in order to state that there is no proof for God's existence, the atheist would have to know all alleged proofs that exist in order to state that there is no proof for God's existence.
Well, that's not true. That's not true at all.
But do all atheists? Well, hold on for a second, Socka. Let me open up for you. Do all atheists have the same epistemic basis, Skyout?
Oh, let me finish here. I was going to say, since you cannot know all.
So every time I ask you the question, you say that you need to finish. So you let me know when you're done, so I can ask you the same fucking question I just asked.
Yeah. How long was you writing while Socka was talking to Praise?
Yeah, let me go ahead and continue that. You can go ahead and finish if you like to. But I was going to say, since he cannot know all things, he cannot logically state that there is no proof for God's existence. So at best, an atheist can always state that all alleged proofs that he has seen thus far, none have worked. So he can even say that he even believes that there's no proof for God's existence. But then this means there's the possibility that there is a proof or proofs out there that he simply has not encountered one yet. So basically, if there was a proof out there that truly did prove that God's existence, would the atheist be able to accept it, given that his presuppositions are in opposition to the existence of God? So basically, the atheist has a presuppositional base that there is no God. In order for him to accept the proof that God's existence, he would have to change his whole paradigm base. And it's very difficult for a major paradigm shift for the belief structure for the atheist. So the atheist that presupposes is very hostile to any proofs for God's existence and less likely to be objective about any proofs.
So let me try it this way, okay? I try to limit myself to any metaphysical assumptions, okay? That at the core of things, I recognize that in order for me to experience the world and understand things about it, I have to use kind of a methodology to make claims about it. Within that, I use methodological naturalism to kind of come to a conclusion about what it is I can empirically kind of observe and see within this world, as well as kind of like any references towards things that have happened before in the past. Because of that, I don't have. I'm trying to start with no metaphysical assumptions that would kind of that would either cancel out or say that God doesn't exist. In fact, if my position is that God doesn't exist, it would have to be a conclusion of other things that I've observed. So I can say that with a great amount of confidence that most of the God concepts that are put forward, definitely don't exist because they are just illogical. They don't make sense, with what we know. So, for example, what we do know about reality is that like a lot of the aspects of the mind come down to pure materialist viewpoints. Here is that the things that we associate, for example, with the soul. Are things like that this type of consciousness can persist past post-mortem and maintain the characteristics that it has in life. But yet we know that through direct influence through things like drugs or trauma to the brain that we can change personality or aspects of their behavior that would show that things that we associate with the soul that within the mind there are actually purely physical in nature. So the idea of a transcendental mind that exists, absent any body or physical form, is something that just isn't supported by any type of methodology that we can observe. Now, so when we talk about the explanatory value then of this, when we talk about the mind as this this transcendental form, I reject any notions of the transcendental mind or the transcendental soul or anything that can persist past a physical form past death. And if your religion stipulates some type of immaterial type of mind that has to exist in no place at no time, which is another way of saying outside of the universe and for all eternity, then I can just reject those based off of the conclusions that I've already of reality that I can observe.
If I could respond to that, please. Basically, I see what you're saying. Yeah, thank you for that. But basically, what I was going to say that basically for an atheist to say that you're governed by two major principles, that you believe that all evidence must be supported by observational evidence, but that belief that contradict observational evidence cannot be tolerated. But strong atheism states that there is no God, even though observational evidence indicates that the universe has a cause that cannot be detected observationally. So despite the
fun thing about the Kalam cosmological argument, if you want to use it, you gotta wonder what the cause is for God. That it fucks itself up because anything that begins to exist needs a cause. So God had to have began to exist at some point, and therefore would need a cause. It fucks up your argument.
And here's something else he just said. He just said observationally.
Yeah,
something not observational.
Now, I don't know why he's still going at this. I already asked him the question. If he were to learn that God didn't exist tomorrow, he'd still be able to gather knowledge using his senses.
Yeah,
this presuppositional shit is kind of ridiculous. He's repeating himself, and we've been going for 2.5 hours now.
Yeah, I mean, Paulo Gia really made a really good video talking about the Kalam argument, and yeah, you don't want to use that, Skyout.
So one of the really good things.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let Dragnauct ask his question though. Dragnauct still hasn't got an answer to his question.
He's not gonna answer it. He's dodged it 3 times. He knows better than to answer direct questions from me. So go ahead, Soccer.
Yeah. So the issue here as well is that what you're trying to put forward here. Oh no, God, I'm trying to remember where I was going with this because okay, that the explanation that you're putting out there. That for fuck's sakes. Observational evidence. That's what it is. Okay, so when we so here we go. This is when it comes to explanations for things, okay, is that well, observation is a great way to kind of get you an explanation on something. It's not necessarily required. If observation was the only thing to come to positions of knowledge on, then the entire field of forensic sciences would be thrown out the window, because we come to conclusions and truth about crime scenes all the time. Based on not direct observation, but the observation of the evidence that we observe because of those events. You can't conflate observation of the event itself with all the supporting evidence that supports said event. Okay, so for example, something like the origins of the universe. Like one of the reasons why we have so much information about it, like that support things like the Big Bang model, is the observations that we can observe now to this day. So now, if it just comes down to the question of like what caused it, there's actually a lot of different theories out there. There's a really good paper not really paper, but it's like kind of a blog that Blanket put out not too long ago, kind of explaining where science currently is with origins of the universe and what we do know, what we don't know, and the nature of things like causation and relationship to that. It's a really good read. Suggest people look it up. But okay,
sure.
But to the point, though, for explanatory value for something like this, is that when we talk about something being a good explanation for something, okay, so for the origins of the universe, for example, or anything that we can observe around us, we have explanations that we would put out there. Now, this one guy will recognize this because I had this conversation with him not too long ago. Is in order for something to be considered a good explanation, it has to have certain explanatory virtues to it. All right. Now, the explanatory virtues that we kind of like point to that kind of like make these arguments are things like that. First off, a question of falsifiability. If something is a good explanation if it's falsifiable, if it's simple, if it coheres with what we see about the world, if it doesn't contain any more claims than necessary, and it doesn't create more questions than it answers. Those are the type of things that we associate with something being a good explanation. So from that, when we come to certain methodologies, in order for us to analyze these questions, we have things like methodological naturalism, which most of the things that we can conclude through methodological naturalism fits all the criteria what we would apply to something being considered a good explanation. But the moment that you propose something supernatural or transcendent, or something that doesn't have or has questions on how it can interact with the physical world, for example, now we're talking about some type of methodological supernaturalism. And we don't actually have any type of system that we can point to that can, show that supernatural methodology or methodological supernaturalism is a thing. So whenever we propose something that's supernatural at the source of a problem, it contains no aspect of falsifiability. It's not simple because you generally have to posit some type of being that's greater than us. It doesn't cohere with what we know about reality because, well, we have, like, for example, these uniform laws of physics, but then we propose a being that automatically, change these laws at any given time. It creates more questions than it answers because now it's like, well, what is this being? Where does it come from? What are its qualities? It contains more claims that are necessary because now you just move into the realm from, an explanation about something natural with an explanation that's something supernatural. So when it comes to explanatory value for something like the origins of the universe, is that we have decent explanations that come in the form of what we can show through methodological naturalism in the entire field, entire scientific method, but we have nothing proposed out there that would fit the standards of methodological supernaturalism, which means that as an explanation for anything, it contains absolutely no explanatory value, which means that it's not a good explanation.
Well,
and in that case, it's about as rational to believe in a supernatural explanation for something as it is to believe that the dent in the side of your car door came from, door dinging fairies rather than the asshole at Walmart.
Yeah, that's not true at all. I was going to say that the explanation.
Everything he said was true. Everything he said was true.
Yeah, thank you very much. But the explanation of the universe.
Well, no, I mean, hold on. It's a fact that everything he just said is true and to the point. And if you're going to start your statement with "that's not true," back it up right now. What did he just say specifically that is not true?
I was going to say that he said naturalism that explains the origins of the universe, and I was going to say that
he never said that. He never said that.
He talked about.
Take one of it is that
he didn't say. Hold on, this one guy. Hold on, this one guy. He never said that naturalism explains the origins of the universe. Not once did he say that.
Yes, he did. You weren't paying
No,
attention.
no. Yes, I was. He never said that.
Obviously, you're drunk. But the explanation.
Socka, did you say that naturalism explains the origins of the universe?
I said that methodological naturalism forms a better explanation for what we observe about reality. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said. You weren't paying attention, but
No,
the
it's-
explanation.
of the universe. Okay, when we talk, like I'm just saying that when it comes to time to posit the supernatural as an explanation that it contains no explanatory value, is that whether or not we know exactly what the necessary preconditions were that's allowed for the universe to exist, means that the realm of something being a good explanation would fall under what the methodologies that we observe. Okay, so we have a methodology which observes the natural world that can come to conclusions about this. But to posit the supernatural, you're skipping steps and putting forward putting forward a notion that you have some type of methodological supernaturalism to explain this. But it just remains as ambiguous a question as it is, for the methodological naturalist, which means that, the methodological naturalist would say that we don't quite know what this is, but you know what, if we do find a solution, it might be found through methodological naturalism. It might be found through whatever system that you propose. But we admit that, well, we don't have a perfect model right now. The explanation put forward by anybody that's advocating for any type of supernatural position would be one of pure fucking ignorance. Essentially, just like, we don't know what the answer is yet, so therefore this must be true. And that's just an irrational position to have. I'm not saying that the source of the universe must be natural. I'm not saying that it can't be supernatural. But I'm saying that anybody that espouses with certainty that must be the case is arguing from ignorance.
And then just to put a pin on what he's saying, when Socka responded when I asked him, okay, and he clearly, even before he expounded on his answer, gave an answer which indicated that I was correct. He never said what you said he said, and then you attempted to gaslight me right there and say, see, I told you, that's what he said. I mean, dude, you are one of the most dishonest interlocutors I've ever encountered in my life. I mean, what I don't even understand even a little bit where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, that's my main message to you, Skyout, is, damn, dude, just look at yourself, man. Just make changes. Like, Socka's schooling you on philosophy. Dragnauct ran you through the gutter, but beyond that, like, just everything you do is wrong.
I think it's hilarious, but your view doesn't have any moral dimension. If you're going to talk about naturalism, it doesn't have any moral dimension.
Hey, Skyout.
From Darwinian evolution. Hold on, give me a second. And it's deterministic from Darwinian evolution by natural selection. This is exactly what Richard Dawkins says, that everything your brain does and produce out of your mouth is just a chemical reaction from complex.
Richard Dawkins again, huh? Yeah, because we're all Richard Dawkins acolytes. We're all Richard Dawkins acolytes here.
Well, hold on for a second, folks. Hold on for a second. Skyout, what type of naturalism are you referring to? That's got in reference to Socka.
He was talking about naturalism.
What type of naturalism?
I couldn't get the last bit of it because it was cutting off.
He said it twice, actually. He repeated it.
Yeah, he did say it twice, but it was cutting off.
So what type of naturalism is he specifically referring to?
He said it. If you want to ask him, he's right there.
I know exactly what type, because he and I have had this conversation literally for years, and I was in the hangout here where he said it twice. There's a very specific type of naturalism that he's deferring to.
And what
you didn't catch it both times.
The point, Skyout, is you're not fucking listening.
He can't say it again, or he's not allowed to say it again, or
no. His point is you're not fucking listening, and that's the point he's trying to infer by asking you to say it. Because you don't know, because you don't listen.
You're not even interested in listening. You're only interested in sticking to your scripts. So you can't listen. You just got to go back to the script.
I don't claim to know everything. I'm just saying that
you don't claim to listen either.
It's a huge difference. It's a huge. So is he talking about methodological naturalism or philosophical naturalism?
Again, he's questioning your ability to listen.
Yeah, that's fine, but I can understand that his point of view is irrelevant to the subject.
You don't know his point of view. You just don't understand which one he's talking about.
No,
that you don't.
Listen, it's not the fact that I'm not listening. I'm saying his point is that he has a distorted view of what he's saying, and he's confused.
You don't know what his point is because you weren't listening to him. And hold on. Dragnauct even just said to you that he gave you two choices, and even that doesn't pull it up out of your brain of what Socka said, because you were listening to Socka, weren't you? when he was talking
No,
to you?
you're confused because basically he was talking about naturalism and
Right,
he
but
was
which
referring to
type of naturalism? And he just gave you two
He was
choices.
talking about
And that doesn't-
observation naturalism. He was talking about observation. He was referring to what I said earlier before he was even talking. I was talking about observational evidence in the universe, and that according to atheism, you can't have any forms of observational evidence because there's lacking in what you're saying is true. That's what I was saying earlier about the
Right.
observational
Yo,
evidence.
let me ask him a couple of questions.
Let me just quickly summarize for him. Okay, what I said was that observation isn't directly required to know things, or else forensic science wouldn't work. I laid out the criteria what a good explanation would be, including the methodology in which we'd find it. I introduced methodological naturalism as a tried and tested and reliable way for us to come to conclusions and what we know about reality. I posited that we don't have a naturalist method. We don't have an explanation for the origins of the universe through methodological naturalism, although we do have some theories that do work. I showed that there is no explanatory power to supernatural methodological supernaturalism because it doesn't propose any type of methodology that we can test. And anybody that would use the argument that because methodological naturalism can't account for the
and I'm saying your methodological
because it can't account for the origins of the universe yet does not automatically mean that therefore God done did it. That's just an argument from ignorance. That's the position that
I'm saying your methodological naturalism, you're basically it's being supported by observational evidence, and I'm saying the beliefs that contradict observational evidence cannot be tolerated. So when you state that there's no God, even though observational evidence indicates that the universe has a cause that cannot be detected observationally.
Remember what I said too about explanations, though, is that the methodological naturalism isn't
because you were talking about methodological naturalism.
I said
right? You were talking about methodological naturalism.
Yeah, I said methodological naturalism doesn't propose a known solution to the origins of the universe. But because there's no methodological supernaturalism, it's ridiculous to say that therefore God did it because we don't even know what a methodology would be to detect it as the supernatural. So when it comes to something having explanatory value, for you to espouse that a God must have been somehow required for the origins of the universe is nothing more than an argument of ignorance or just just an assertion that's founded by absolutely nothing rational at all. Unless you can propose some type of methodological supernaturalism in which we can test it, in which case to come to that conclusion, then it's just irrational to hold to that position at this time.
Not at all, because the explanation of the universe.
I'm trying to find for you, Socka. I'm still trying to get on that so we can continue our conversation.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about this, and
I was going to say not at all, because
I appreciate the conversation that we had on this, and remember what I told you as well is that this isn't an argument against God. I'm not saying that a God wasn't involved. It's entirely possible that a God could have created a universe. But what I'm proposing here is whether or not there's explanatory virtue to proposing a God. And that it's just for someone to assert it with such certainty without any type of methodological supernaturalism that we can point to in some type of way to explain how this could have been, other than just asserting it as a brute fact when there's no evidence to support it, well, then you're just irrational at that point in time.
Okay, you got 30 seconds there. Let me get 30 seconds in. Let me get 30 seconds in. Okay, you guys keep cutting me off. I was going to say the explanation of the universe can be found only in a transcendent reality because the universe beyond space and time, which is metaphysically necessary for its existence. Now, there's only one way I can think of to get at the contingent entity like the universe from a necessarily.
But that's an argument from incredulity at that point in time. Whenever you say there's only one way that I can think of right now, basically you're saying is that I'm incredulous to any other possibility. It's really easy to spot when someone is making an argument from incredulity because they generally say something ridiculous like, well, there's only one way I can see this happening.
Socka, I hate to break it to you. He is fully aware that he makes fallacious arguments and has openly told me that he doesn't care.
All right.
He accepts the fallaciousness of his arguments.
So I've been stuck on this for a little while. Earlier, Skyout, you said that in order to have any sort of morality, you need to presuppose God first, right?
I'm sorry. No, God must exist in order to have an absolute standard of morality.
All right. So if you found out that God didn't exist tomorrow, what's going to stop you from killing people?
You can ground morality in empathy.
Okay. Well, he's not wrong about that.
All right. Thank you, man.
He's not wrong.
I'm not even wrong.
Good night, folks.
But it wouldn't be absolute. It wouldn't be absolute. It would be subjective.
That's the point.
What's not absolute about empathy?
Thank you, Skyout. I have a comedy show. I've got 150 comedy clips.
What effectively would be the difference between the two systems then, if they both came to the same conclusion?
Oh, because one of them is not absolute, Drag.
What? Okay, so let me repeat the fucking question. What would be the difference between them effectively? And when I say effectively, that is what would change in the society between the two scenarios where one doesn't have this absolute standard and the other.
It's not a societal question.
Okay, on a personal level, doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there.
Just
on a
answer
personal
the
level,
question.
what is the actual difference? What would physically change?
What do you believe is different? How about that?
Terry?
Yeah. Well, basically, what's the difference is that it has to do with the origin of your epistemology and your epistemological framework.
Why? Why does it have to deal with that?
Because your foundation does not have an absolute standard.
But why is that important?
Because then you have no measurement of what is right or wrong.
But the absolute standard that you hold to be true doesn't have a measurement either.
How do you know that?
I know that because you subscribe to a book.
Well,
One single book written by human beings.
The other way you know that is because right after he said that, Skyout said it could be based on empathy too. So,
well, that's a contradiction in terms. You have to be logically.
Oh, you contradicted yourself. You contradicted yourself. Then.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what two terms are contradictory?
Say it again.
What two terms are contradictory?
Oh, I was pointing out that everything that you say is contradictory.
No, okay. You said that's a contradiction in terms, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Okay, a contradiction are two polar opposites.
Oh, no. I was talking to the messenger, Drag.
I understand. Yeah. What two things are contradictory based on what messenger just said?
Say it again, based on what?
Did you not just say
my God.
that's a contradiction in terms in reference to what the messenger just said?
Yeah.
We actually said.
Okay. What are those two things that are in contradiction of one another?
The things that he said, I asked him, I said there wasn't an absolute standard.
Yes, not the things. Quit saying the things. Be specific with what he said. There's here and this thing here.
If you were listening to what I said before, I said he did not have an absolute standard in anything he's saying because everything comes from Darwinian evolution by natural selection. That's what I said before. If you were paying attention, you would have got that.
Okay. So
oh my God,
the messenger is not. The messenger is a Christian.
Oh.
I had to point that out.
He's not a Christian. He's a Unitarian.
Okay. Well, whatever. The issue here.
Unitarians believe in God.
It's.
He believes in Jesus.
See. This is why he won't answer direct questions. Because he says things, and then we ask him to qualify it.
He can't do it. Hey, here's one. Here's a real quick heat check. Skyout, what kind of naturalism was Socka talking about?
You might know it.
What kind of naturalism was Socka talking about a little bit ago?
He was talking about methodological naturalism.
Oh my God!
Bingo! He's got it. By Jove, he's got it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was listening, y'all. Thank you very much.
I was listening.
It took 3 hours.
Oh my God!
I heard him.
Literally, it took not only Socka having to say it twice, Drag having to ask you, but then Drag also having to limit to you 2 different options.
My shit was cutting out, y'all.
Somebody said it.
My bad. My shit was cutting out.
So downloading porn, it cuts out. I don't hear words when people ask me direct questions. I kind of Scout the best. Scout wins. Scout wins.
Hey, are we also gonna hear again what Richard Dawkins says?
Yeah,
that's just fucking amazing.
Because we all suck Richard Dawkins' dick.
Damn.
I admit it.
So wait, hold on. Scout, is Dawkins, a Darwinist or is he a neo-Darwinist?
Do what?
Is Dawkins a Darwinist or a neo-Darwinist?
He's a Darwinist.
Oh, he's all the Darwinists. All of them.
Hey, you know what? Can we just say fuck this shit? And can we have another pose off between Dragnauct and Messenger?
No.
I don't know. I think this
that was
one
for fun.
This one guy makes a better Skyout. I'm just gonna say that right now.
we come back to Skyout so we can have a better version of Skyout.
Oh, we lost Socka.
He'll be back.
Run my course on fuckery today. I was messing around with G-Man on his channel. He got triggered and called me, so I was like, I'm just gonna have some fun.
Okay.
So followed him. Yeah.
Drag, why didn't G-Man show up to the debate today?
He may be living outside right now.
Oh, so it was like real life. I was like,
I heard why, Doc. I heard why he didn't show up. Well, his excuse was in his live stream was because I posted in his live stream that he was #bitchmade because he didn't show up, and his answer was, "Oh, I thought that was at 6 o'clock. I can show you screenshots of where they told me it was 6 o'clock."
So he did have it. James did have it at 6 o'clock on the channel. But yes.
He did.
Wait a second. I just realized something. Obviously, it really sucks that G-Man might be homeless. That's terrible. But he's made the argument that there's no starving Christians. Is he starving right now?
Have you seen him?
Well, the thing is I want to say that even though G-Man didn't show up to this debate, he fucking won it like a fucking champ.
Oh
yeah, he wins everything.
He's never lost
everything.
He's like Skyout. He never loses.
Well, yeah, so we need to get Skyout and G-Man together, so one of the undefeateds can be defeated.
They can suck
Hey, Nakatsuchi.
Yeah.
No, that's like dividing by 0. It's just fucking impossible.
Hey, Skyout, I thought you had to go eat chili mac, man.
Yeah, I just
I got nowhere to sit.
yeah, I just you know what at this point in time, all jokes aside, man, just like I do appreciate these conversations. All right, I think that they're great. So like, if you ever want to have another one, like, it's awesome, cool, let's do it. Join Drag's Discord. Like I said, I generally chill in there in the evenings when I have nothing else to do, play video games with the guys, and just have fun. You're always more than welcome to come in and just chat about random shit with us, or this stuff if you want. I never turn down the chance for a conversation.
Sounds good.
I want to have a poll. Who's nicer, Dr. Josh or Socka?
Ooh, Socka's Canadian, so it's a sympathy.
I've never seen either one of them lose their cool.
I don't know, because Dr. Josh has a British wife, and the Brits are a lot of times very, 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 very nice. And then you have Socka who's Canadian, and Canadians are always nice. So this is very, very interesting.
Canadians are pure evil, so I'm going to have to say Dr. Josh.
Point of order. Ted Cruz comes from Canada.
I have seen both of them lose their cool, actually. I have videos of
I watched Dr. Josh lose his cool on players like that. I Am.
And Jill.
Yeah, there he went. All right, so
and I haven't seen Socka lose his cool yet, though. Dr. Josh, I think, is nicer and more apologetic. Sokka's just Socka.
Hey, hold on, Drag.
There's no doubt because Dr. Josh has never look. I'll put it this way: when Socka told Skyout in round 1 that he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Yeah, that Dr. Josh would have never done that, and that just legitimately.
No. In your hangout,
Socka.
Dr. Josh has.
No.
In your hangout, Dr. Josh told someone to fuck off. He did. I remember.
Oh no!
I didn't see that.
But hold on, in the after show on the non-sector show, G-Man comes on, and whenever he does, they have a conversation. They have a conversation, and then Dr. Josh goes to leave, and when he says, "This is the first and probably going to be the last time I ever speak to G-Man," because he really has nothing to contribute to the conversation, G-Man tries to go off with saying, "I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that." But as soon as he said that, Dr. Josh says, "I don't give a shit about you, G-Man."
No, he said fuck. He said fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't really give a fuck about what anything you say. Something to that effect. It was on non-sec. It wasn't on your channel, Knock. I thought it wasn't because it was G-Man. That's exactly the one I'm thinking of.
That shit. I have to see Dr. Josh get mad. And it wasn't like Socka was mad at Skyout. It's just he landed the fucking truth bomb on him. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'll never get over that moment. It was classic.
But the thing is we won't ever know because Skyout doesn't
always
listen
wins.
to fucking
He
a
always
word
wins.
anyone says.
Yeah, I literally called it in the chat, and I mean, Sokka was going at praise at that point, and Skyout was being all quiet, and I'm like, man, I'm surprised Skyout's still here. And I get some comments, and I'm like, he's writing a script. And sure as shit, once he started speaking again, he started reading something new.
Yeah,
You could tell he was reading it too.
Yeah.
Genuine question on the Dr. Josh, Jill, and whoever the fuck that other guy is. What exactly got him a little pissed off in the conversation? Because I know those two people have said some pretty inflammatory things.
Yeah,
One of them comparing being homosexual to fucking
I
disorder.
believe didn't Praise pretty much say that like Scholar was it Praise that was Praise the one that said Scholar Fiction was racist, and Scholar was like, my wife is black, and dude, maybe it wasn't him. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it had anything to do with like them saying inflammatory shit.
What when Dr. Josh was talking about G-Man?
No, Jill and
Praise that I am that
Yeah.
he would the praise
I
that
have no clue.
There is record on the internet, and I'm not going to tell people where to find it.
I know where it is.
Of me losing my shit on a flat earther once.
This shit's hilarious.
Oh,
dude,
Although-
that
that was Debbie, wasn't it?
shit on Matt
Yeah,
Powell.
it was Debbie.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
Drag.
can't remember exactly what it was, but I think something
Oh, that was.
yeah,
I
you're-
remember
you're-
that. That was. Oh wow. That
yeah,
was,
your
wow.
parents did you a disservice by not drowning you in the bathtub when you were a kid. Or something.
Oh, jeez.
That's terrible.
Hey, Drag,
child.
is that
Right there.
Drag? Is that a picture of you shaking hands with G-Man?
Yes, that is. Somebody was asking for this picture, so I decided. There you go. For those of you who've not
Man.
seen this.
Hell yeah, that so like the picture, is that you when you live stream yoking them up?
Yeah, that happened the same day. That happened a little bit. I actually do have that picture too.
No
But
shit.
this happened a few seconds before I squeeze his hand and he falls to his knees.
Yeah, you're a big dude.
Yeah, he's actually surprised because you would always say, "Oh, you're not that big," and then this is him being shocked because I was behind him and I said, "What's going on, little man?" And he turned around and jumped back.
No, I have a question. I'm pretty short, so if I would like to jump up and hug you, and you caught me, would that piss you off, or would you just be caught off guard?
I mean, if I know who you are, like if you just jump at me, I'm gonna hit you in the throat. But if I know it's you, then I'll hit you.
Okay, cool.
Some random person jumping at you. Ah!
I've also met Drag in person because, well, we lived in the same roughly the same area.
Yeah, we went out to eat. I think at was it Allen's Crab Shack, Crazy Allen's.
No, it was at the
Swamp Shack.
the Swamp Shack. There we go.
That's what it was. Swamp
Which,
Shack.
by the way, we do need to go. We do need to go out and eat again sometime.
Let me know, man. Let me know. People thoroughly enjoyed me fucking with G-Man, and so.
Oh, geez, what is
Yeah,
what is
sorry.
it about you, Drag? You got all these cool people to live near you, man.
I forgot there's another incident. The other day I did jump into Drake's live stream and say some pretty defamatory things about Shiny for Christ as well.
Yeah, I was reading about that. I just found out about that chick. She's strange, huh?
Yeah, you can say that.
I don't know anything about her. I don't. I've been hearing stories popping in and out of drag.
She's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man.
Yeah, Shanny is. Let's just say that the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Shani has been on here longer than a lot of people, believe it or not. Like she's been on here longer than me.
Wow.
Yeah, she was attached to the Amazing Atheist at one point, like attached.
Shit.
Like Brett Keane.
Well, anyway, I'm going to take off, guys. It's been a pleasure, but I've spent far too long in this hangout tonight, so I'm going to go.
All right, yeah, thank you, Sokka. It's about time to shut it down. We can stay.
You'll be around because I think some people said they want to discuss some of this stuff. So
I know
sure.
I got to break all this shit down. I think I got like 4 or 5 different little videos I can make out of this fucker.
Hey, Sokka, I have a request for you. Could you please make like a little short video, like you broke that G-Man shit out of Drag's video, do that for this. Like, can you take like a little capsulization out of your like conversation with Skyout and make like a little 5-7 minute video?
Well, there is one part where it was where he just denied presuppositionalism completely, where it was just like, do you presuppose that the Bible is true? And he said no. I was like, well, how do you know it's true? Well, because it's revealed through God's word. I'm just like, where's God's word? In the Bible. They're like, oh, so wait, you don't presuppose the Bible is true because the Bible says it's true. Okay, like, yeah, that's pretty much that's the end of the argument right there.
Yeah, it's so I was going to say earlier, Skyout is very reminiscent of true empiricism. When, if none of you guys are familiar, some of you guys kind of know who he is. When I heard the name first on here, back when I first came on here with like Suzuki Das. True used to read from scripts. Every single conversation, and that's who Skyout reminds me of. Except True could sort of have a conversation, and he was a little bit better at deflecting and not making it so obvious that he didn't really know what the fuck he was talking about. Except the difference is we're talking about like science now. He was fascinated,
like propellers.
Yeah, with propeller, the mechanistic nature of ATP synthase, cytochrome C3, whatever. And its subunits, like that was his shtick. And if you interrupted him, he had to start the whole thing over again because he didn't have it memorized. Nowadays, if you run across him, he doesn't need the little, because you can actually, with some videos, we actually heard him like crinkling the paper and trying to move like between papers. But now he has it memorized. And so it's actually been interesting to watch him evolve over years, having to not rely so much on cue cards and scripts and to use lines, but then to also somewhat be able to navigate in an organic conversation about chemistry and get a little bit into epistemology too where necessary, but stay pretty well grounded where he feels comfortable, which is pretty much the biological sciences.
And he still sucks at it.
Yeah, no, he's terrible. He's absolutely fucking terrible. But he's better. Like at
least he's trying. Like that's the thing with Skyout. Like I'm gonna have to go back and make some kind of little funny clip because the first time I ever debated Skyout was my first appearance on Modern Day Debate. First like official debate I've ever done. And I was able to get him off his script so easily and get him frustrated so easily that I even told him, I was like, dude, if you don't stop getting off these scripts because you're just so bad. And at that point, I had spoken to Standing for Truth and Darth Dawkins and just people that were a lot better at it than he was.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, if you don't get off these fucking scripts, you're just gonna get this handed to you. I'll have to go back and watch it and see my exact wording, but I'm gonna have to clip that out and then have this little. I've been calling them a masterclass all fucking night. Like it was a fucking masterclass.
I literally think that you could go into that. And if you broke this whole video down, Doc, you could come up with at least half a dozen incidences where he said something and then within a few minutes said the exact opposite.
That's the problem with a lot of people who use scripts and who just rely on that, is that they can't have organic conversations. So when I ask him pertinent questions like, well, if you're criticizing philosophical naturalism, then sure. But if we're talking about methodological naturalism, well, that's something quite a bit different, right? That has its own, weaknesses as far as, arguments made against it. But if you can't even identify what your opponent is trying to put forth, then that speaks volumes as to your ability to engage in civil discourse. And so I've kind of relied on being able to say, let's try and take this in bite-sized chunks and understand each other's positions. Let's use the Socratic method. And if the people that you're speaking to are resistant to the Socratic method, that is one of the red flags that you look out for, and kind of keep in the back of your mind that this person isn't really trying to engage with you, because everyone should be able to try to use the Socratic method in order to parse out each other's positions.
And here's the thing too,
I'm sorry, John, I'll let you speak.
No, that's all right.
I was just going to say that was like the big difference between Skyout and Praise, and I was able to pick up on that immediately. I didn't agree. I felt like Praise got handled efficiently, but he was actually engaging, considering the conversation, and at least arguing back.
Well, my biggest issue.
Hey, frustrated. Could I just, before we get too far past, all I was going to say before Knock was when Drag said, talking about the Socratic method, I just wanted to point out that's not to be confused with the Socratic method.
I don't know. The Socratic method might be a new thing. Go ahead, frustrated.
Yes.
I was just gonna say one of the biggest things that always pisses me off about pre-suppers is especially with Skyout right now, is he sits there and says, well, Richard Dawkins says this, and people in the chat says, that's great for Richard Dawkins, but I don't give a shit what Richard Dawkins says. Oh, okay. Well, Richard Dawkins said this. It's like, what the fuck? I just got done telling you, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like when he's like, because he's in the chat now posturing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if I ask him, can you offer a summation on Sokka's position on literally any of them, he won't do it. Like, he could make me look like a fool and actually offer a cogent response, but it's obvious that people like him really don't have the chops, to have these type of conversations, and that's sad. Like, and sometimes it takes an ass kicking in order for people to kind of realize, like, you know what, I'm out of my league. I need to take a step back. And trust me, lots of people have done this. I've seen tons of people who come in ass ablaze and they get just their ass handed to them, and then they finally sit down and realize that, you know what, me posturing on here really doesn't convince people of anything. I'm not looking good as being a representative of myself, of my faith or anything else. So I really need to take time, understand theology, understand some philosophy or science, wherever you want to go, and then try to have these conversations.
Yeah, and that was my big message to him, was outside of having fun with him. And I gave him props throughout. Like, he was sitting here, and I'm sure to the outsider looking in, it might appear like everybody here was atheists ganging up on the one Christian. No, there were Christians in here, and every Christian that was here stood in opposition to what Skyout was doing as well. But that was the thing I was trying to tell him, all jokes aside, was, hey, dude, just look at yourself, man. Like, you are not representing yourself very well. That comedy show is not representing you very well. And you coming in here, and I even warned him, like, before, I warned both of them. I warned Praise tonight before he started, and I warned Skyout before he started. Like, you don't want to fuck with Sokka. Sokka is way beyond your level right now. You start small baby steps, build confidence,
Yeah. I mean, there's certain topics I can't fucking touch Sokka on. And the same thing, if we get into certain science topics, there's nothing he can touch me on. But it really, you have to pick your battles. You have to know who you're talking to. And if you want to get into epistemology with Sokka, or you want to get into different forms of justification, different types of justifications, you need to actually understand, at least have a cursory understanding of philosophy. And Skyout is, I don't know whether he's too lazy or he just has a legitimate mental impediment, but you're not going to get Sokka.
Yeah.
Well, Drag, see, the issue is because Sokka has Darwinian evolution stuck in his brain, that word salad here and my presupposition here, script here, and so there you go.
Right.
And that's all it is.
The best thing, I could tell this to anybody. I know Sky's listening. Ask Skyout to offer a summation of your position, and he won't be able to do it.
He already said that he wasn't going to give you the satisfaction or some bullshit.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's the exact same thing, Drag, that you said, like, when we first started talking about G-Man. Is like he does that same thing, and it's so easy to get him at that point. Because
they can't at the same time tell you that they're refuting what you're saying if they don't understand what you're saying. So if they understand what you're saying, then they should be able to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, somebody who's in chat, ask Skyout if he knows what steel manning is, and if he could steel man Sokka's argument.
He can't even. He doesn't even understand what straw man is, and he does that thing. What makes you think he knows what steel man is?
Yeah.
No, I find it funny that he just got his ass handed to him, and I
got a couple of
clips more hurt at Messenger than anybody. I'm gonna let him prove to you what a Unitarian is, Messenger.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they pretend they want to have these conversations, but they don't. I just got done talking to Genius Boy G-Man on his channel, he wanted to talk about B17, and so I walked him through the mechanism of action for B17, and he understood absolutely nothing of what I said. And if y'all are curious, I can tell you if you are genuinely curious in the chemistry behind that and why it's dangerous. But,
it's cyanide, right? Or does it metabolize it as cyanide? I forgot which one.
Check this out. Skyout posts in chat. Wow, it's a form of opposite of the straw man argument. Like, so
I mean, he's not. The funny thing is he's not wrong, but
well, no, but
just,
all
like,
that means is
badly.
Yeah, but all that means is he Googled it real quick and
oh God, so
didn't understand it fully. But
Skyout. You know what? I will give you a hand here. Steel manning someone's position is actually making arguments for them that makes it to where their position is a lot stronger than if you didn't. So, in other words,
wait a minute. I don't want to call out somebody in the room here, but now Messenger Reveals posts in chat. Skyout, no. Steel manning is actually for pussies who hold to fragile belief systems just to debunk yours. Like, what the fuck, Messenger?
Oh, God, that's great. I love that.
That's me bending TRA over the bench and giving it to him again.
Does Skyout not know the difference between a contraction and possessive your?
Skyout doesn't know a lot of shit.
Jesus. Okay. Anyway.
I think I'm back to the conclusion that he's like 15. He's 15.
He's 19. He has a fiance. You can't be like getting engaged at 16.
Well, no, if you live in Tennessee.
Yeah, he might live in the Appalachian
He has a neck
Mountains.
beard. He has a neck beard.
I don't mean to insult the people of Tennessee by comparing them to Skyout.
I mean, is it his mom? Okay, anyway, okay, so
it's his cousin. No, actually, it might be his sister.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, Skyout, but when he introduces his mother and his sister, there's only one woman standing next to him.
Family trees the bush. All right, so look, if you're actually curious,
it's terrible, people. Shame.
So if you heard there's cyanide and B17, yeah, kind of right. That's technically not cyanide, but it's a little bit of difference. So, all right,
it's supposed to metabolize, right?
Huh?
It's supposed to metabolize into cyanide, right?
Yeah, it'll metabolize. So cyanide is a compound that contains a carbon that's triple bound to a nitrogen. So in the molecule of amygdalin, it does contain what's called a nitrile group, which is that C that's triple bound to nitrogen. What happens is when you consume amygdalin, B17, your liver has an enzyme called rhodinase that ends up cleaving that nitrile group off and forming a metabolite called thiocyanate. And I think the enzyme is something called sulfur transferase. Feel free to look that up. But what ends up happening is that this metabolite, this thiocyanate, acts as what's called a competitive inhibitor, which it will end up kind of connecting to the cell surface and preventing it from doing something called cellular respiration. So effectively starving the cell. And when it does that, that ends up killing the cells. So when you have a high enough concentration of B17, this amygdalin that you've consumed, you can end up killing off quite a few cells. And this, from what I've read, it has a penchant of targeting thyroid cells, thyroid tissue. So you could end up getting like grave disease potentially from consuming this over large amounts over a long period of time. And that's you don't really see too much happen to people, because if they're only consuming 5 milligrams here or there, that's not a whole lot. Like you need hundreds, like I want to say several. So maybe I think the guy had 50 grams every 2 or 3 days. I think one of the guys that I read about, like he was consuming quite a bit every other day for weeks. He ended up getting cyanide poisoning from that and started exhibiting the symptoms of that. So there you go. Any questions?
Drag, I just have to say that you're wrong, because B17 is the miracle cure for cancer. I mean, so obviously you're wrong.
Yeah, and I did ask G-Man. I was like, so how does it? Because he said specifically that it doesn't harm healthy cells. I said, well, that's bullshit. Yeah, it does. But so
technically, it is a cure if you don't die of cancer.
Yeah, well, if you die, you won't have cancer anymore. You're right. That is true. but he couldn't tell me like the mechanism of action. Like, how does it know which cells are cancerous? Does it find the major histocompatibility complex too? Like, what does it actually find? How does it do that? He has no clue.
Drag. It's because of Jeebus's.
Yeah, it's Jesus.
You know, Jeebus is in the B17, and he says, "You attack that cell. You attack that cell." I mean, come on, Drag. I mean, this is basic science. Do I have to teach you science now, Drag?
Yeah.
Hey, I would just like to say that your buddy is saying that you guys got to study real atheists, rookies. You guys are real confused. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Sam Harris.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I will say this one last time. I said it in chat, but I don't give a fuck what any of those people say.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. They represent themselves. I represent myself.
If I want to go to Richard Dawkins, I'm going to go to him for biology. If I'm going to go to someone about philosophy, it's not going to be Richard Dawkins. That's like me saying I want to go and get my heart checked out, so I'm going to go to a foot doctor.
Well, but this is even better. He says, the raging atheist. Why should I look at all atheists when Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Sam Harris are top-level shit? So apparently, his entire conversation with Socka is pointless because Sokka is not top shit.
Apparently. And if that's the case, then should we look at some of the top Christians who are terrible human beings and pretty much judge all Christians by those views?
We should find some Unitarians and then judge them by the Unitarians because
there we go.
They represent what he believes.
Hey, the messenger. That's right. You represent all Unitarians now.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spokesperson. Didn't even know it.
Yeah, all right, folks. The wife
messenger,
is here.
that's how this works.
Yeah, Dragnauct, I appreciate you coming in, man. We are going to be ending this in 10 minutes, guys. So get your last words in, and I got to go to sleep.
Hey, there's an old buddy of mine in the chat. I used to go hang out at his band practices and smoke weed and stuff. His name's Trace Zach Daniels. He's got some really interesting theories I think we should all hear sometime. I think he wants to try and come on stream. Not now, but...
Yeah, he's been in the comment section a lot. Yeah, he's more than welcome to come on stream. We'll set something up, Atheist Rational. We'll get you, him, and me together.
What's his theories about, though? Like, what are we talking? Are we just talking about religion? Or are we talking about conspiracy?
No, he has some really out there governmental conspiracies. I think he bought that whole the government was trying to kidnap homeless people and put them in like camps and stuff, and he thinks the government kidnapped his daughter, and he's also a Gnostic, but there's some religion stuff out there. But
does he believe
it's mostly very out there, like government conspiracies?
Does he believe the FEMA camp stuff?
That's it. I forgot the name of it. Thank you, dude.
Go ahead, Dragnaught. I'm sorry.
Does he believe the stuff of the FEMA camps?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually went to a FEMA camp. I'm very curious what he thinks they're like.
Yeah, I worked in a FEMA camp too.
I'd love to get him on and talk to him. Like I said, he's been all up in the comments.
This was years back, though. He's saying that this isn't true now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he changed his position on that.
We'll get you let you represent yourself so you can clarify and say what you believe.
I'm gonna
that's good. He's definitely not one of those who says that the old Walmarts are being torn down to build these concentration FEMA camps.
I'm cool with that.
That's good. That's good.
You and I had like arguments about it on Facebook. You're basically gaslighting me now, dude. I know it's true.
Victim.
What was that called?
You've even like
everybody buy.
You even posted posters all around town. I wish I took pictures.
If anybody out there enjoyed the conversation, y'all heard something me or Sokka said that you want some clarification on, or you think we're just fucking wrong and assholes, come talk to us in Discord.
Jack, I always think you're wrong.
That's cool. That's acceptable. You don't have to like me. You can just come in and chat and tell me how much you don't like me.
No, I'll just be out with you at a restaurant.
Clarify that. Trace is actually really cool. Just he has interesting ideas. Like I said, I used to hang out with him and like smoke weed in his band practice and stuff. He's a really cool guy. Just don't get him talking about the government.
No, I'll definitely bring him on. Me, you, and him can have a little have a conversation. I know a bit about government conspiracies. I don't believe in many of the stuff that I used to believe, but I used to be a big government conspiracist way back in the day when I was studying. I mean, I was into conspiracies, not just government conspiracies, religion conspiracies, all that shit. So yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. Smoked a lot of weed, looked out a lot of windows, looking for the CIA and the man.
The conversations are a lot of fun to have, even if you don't believe it. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just like finding out why, what people believe, why they believe it. I'm to a point now that I try not to judge unless they're bigoted, unless they're harmful towards other people.
He's not a bigot. He's not hateful. He's a really cool guy, like I was saying.
Well, like
at least he's not one of those. At least it's not one of those. Hey, this is what I believe, and if you don't believe this, then you're just a sheeple.
Yeah. And Trace, like I said, he's been all up in the comments watching the videos, so obviously he has good taste.
Yeah, I don't want it to come off like I hate the guy or anything.
He doesn't get into that. He doesn't. Yeah. One of the conspiracy things I like is the demonic ones.
Oh yeah. I used to read a bunch of those too.
Where anything and everything is demonic or something?
It's Satan. Yeah, it's all from Satan, and it's Satan's way of.
There's a lot of government conspiracies that CIA is satanic, that they have satanic rituals, that FBI is satanic, they have Satan. I mean, there's so many fucking conspiracy theories out there that is fucking nuts, man. There is still I still believe pretty much everything I read in Behold a Pale Horse Riding, though, and I only believe it is because you can't really find that book anymore.
So I would say, has the CIA have wanted to do some really fucked up shit? Of course, but I'm sorry, they're not fucking satanic. They're just not. The CIA is a government agency that has done prove that it's not.
There's worse ones than that. There's the worst ones than that. Frustrated. I've read conspiracy theories where they have child pedophile rings. They run sex trafficking rings. They supply all of the drugs to the complete United States of America. All of them. It's crazy shit.
Man. I mean, that one's obviously true. I mean, all the drugs are coming from the CIA. I mean, come on now, guys.
Yeah, I should start looking at conspiracy theories. I used to on my old channel, but it's so political, and it just, the right wing's gonna hate you because they believe most of it.
Everyone's gonna hate you because someone on the right is going to sit there and say, "You're making fun of us." Someone on the left is going to say, "Oh well, whatever fucking reason for this." So I'm just like, I'm going to stay away from a lot of different topics.
They're all going to laugh at you.
They all are.
I think that there's probably going to be some Christian conspiracy theories based upon tonight that atheists are getting together to bring down the good Christians and make them look like idiots, but they just don't realize that that's just Skyout.
Don't post your cell phone number on the internet. Come on, man. Why?
Trace,
did Skyout just do that? Oh no, my god!
Trace.
I got to.
Trey, don't do that, Trey.
He goes by T, so T or T.
It's not that big a deal. It might be like a VoIP number or something.
I removed it, man. I removed it. Yeah, don't put it on the internet.
Respect your own privacy, man. Respect your own privacy.
I just went out to have a smoke, and I had a package up.
Of course, Athena knows the book that I'm talking about. Of course, Athena knows the book that I'm talking about. I should have known that.
What's the book called?
It's called Pale Horse Riding. It's an old conspiracy book.
Neil the rock star's in the house, and he needs a wrench.
Yeah,
that guy makes
Neil.
I know. What is up, Neil? The 604 atheist.
Oh, I love Neil.
Yeah, he's good. I'm gonna be on his channel in the next month doing my deconversion story.
Neil's awesome. We're
about to be done though, Neil. Oh my gosh, it's how long now? 3.5 hours. What do we 3.5 hours of Skyout domination. I got to figure out what I'm going to call this because it's got to be good.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Hey, Nakasuchi, call it
I
Sky.
heard you.
Call it Sky out there.
Calm down.
Jesus, I know you might not care about like posting your cell phone number or anything, but you got to realize like the Raging Atheist has a lot of trolls and stuff that like follow him, and they can like get a hold of your number and like start harassing you. And like the only reason we're deleting it is to protect.
And
you
I
from
have some
harassment.
dangerous trolls.
You will get swatted.
Yeah, you don't want Matt Powell having your phone number.
Matt, or maybe not so much Matt Powell, but Matt Powell, people that follow Matt Powell. You don't want that number getting out.
Yeah.
So look, I just went outside to have a smoke, and I had a package in my entryway that belongs to one of my neighbors who just moved out, and then we were going to ship it to her, and the fucking thing's gone, man. Somebody walked right into our entryway up there and stole it.
That sucks, man.
It's the person that sent the package to begin with.
It's them damn atheists.
Damn.
Only the ones that are worth their shit, like Richard Dawkins did it. Harris did it.
I gotta tell you, I wish Socka had more time on his hands to like put some content out. I just think
or at least just go around to people's channels and then mirror what you do and put it on your channel. You know, like I've told him every time he comes on my channel to mirror it. And I think he's probably planning on doing it. But Socka told me that he just likes having conversations. So, you know, he goes around and he goes to chat rooms and has conversations. He stays in Drag's Discord and has conversations. That's what, like, anybody's welcome to go. Like Skyout, you can seriously, when he tells you to go and learn, he means it. You could go there and you could be much better. I have a feeling that you like being a bigoted idiot. I think you like that. You like yourself.
He's
He
found
could
his
go.
He's found his niche.
Look, he could go and grow as a person, but you know, his victories, they all say it for himself.
Yeah, well, and he's undefeated anyway, so
yeah. So he doesn't need to grow as a person.
Yeah. I mean, he did technically lose like 20 times tonight.
Shut up! Those don't count.
The messenger, did Skyout? I went out for a smoke, so I couldn't see the live chat. Did he ever answer my question?
No.
About coming out? Oh, okay.
Oh, he doesn't.
He never answers anyone's question.
Yeah, never. But all right, guys.
He will sit there.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Frustrated.
I was just going to say that what he likes to do. What he likes to do is he likes to, when you ask him a question, is he will say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to answer this," but then goes through all this word salad to pretty much not answer what the fuck you just asked him.
Mm-hmm.
You invented a new energy machine? What?
Exactly.
T?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a very interesting conversation there. I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna set that up, Trace. Do you have my email? AR has my email, so get my email and we'll set this up, or I'll talk to AR. But I am gonna have to get out of here because I have to go to sleep. My little girl will be up about 6:30 probably because I stayed up late.
That's 4 hours, dude.
Yeah, no, she seems to know somehow when she's sleeping that, hey, Dad is up at 3 a.m. Let's wake up in 3 hours. So I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate you guys all coming in here. Skyout, I'm glad you're still here because it just is kind of a sign that you were just so thoroughly crushed that you just had to get out of the room. Real quick, you guys want to plug your channels real quick? I know pretty much everybody here has a channel they can talk about. So real quick, plug your channels and then we'll get out of here. If you want to.
Well, let me just say that I'm doing some streams like 3 or 4 times a month on modern day on a Great Debate Community channel. And next stream we have either next weekend or the weekend after, Nakasuchi's going to be on again, and he's going to talk about his channel. So if there's anybody that's here now that knows people that don't know about the Raging Atheist yet, tell him to check that out, and he'll be telling all about his channel and why he decided to create it and all of that.
Cool. Jay?
Oh, the only thing I was going to just say is, hey, if Skyout wants to have a conversation with John, the messenger reveals, you can come on my channel because I don't
Oh,
that shit.
And by the way,
Posting tonight, Jay?
And by the way, just for shits and giggles, since it's the end of the night, I timed him out once.
He deserved it. He's a bigoted fuck. Go ahead, Atheist Rational.
So I'm the Atheist Rationale. I haven't done anything for a few months because, I have a lot of weird personal stuff going on. But that doesn't mean I can't plug a couple of really cool people. I already plugged Tatted Philosophy. He's someone you really got to check out. The Geek Room. Dallas Wade has the voice of an angel. He's someone you really need to subscribe to. Check him out. He's great.
All right, yeah, I'll definitely check him out. Messenger.
I offer an alternative view to modern day mainstream Christianity. If you really want to have a theist perspective that really embodies the persona of Jesus, then you want to check out my channel. I help people become better versions of themselves, regardless of their theological or non-theological beliefs. So check it out.
And the much better version of Skyout. Are you still there?
I'm always here.
Plug your channel. And did you put a link for me in the side chat of your channel?
No,
just
not yet. I wasn't
send
able to.
Send me a link in email whenever
Okay.
after you get out of work. But go ahead and plug your channel.
Yeah, you'll find it eventually, guys.
Is it called This One Guy?
It's called Nick.
Yeah, it's just my.
I'll plug something for him. He made a hilarious parody of that Skyout comedy thing where he pretends to have a conversation with him, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. You should really check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. This one guy, real quick before we end. When did you, Skyout, and Jill do what? Or you, Skylar, and Jill do what Skylar put on his channel today?
We did that about 2 weeks ago, and then I was talking to Skylar Fiction earlier today, actually, on Jill's, and then Jill booted him off. I'm like, dude, that was hateful as hell. But yeah, man, it was a good conversation. We were getting into it.
So he was on Jill's channel earlier today too?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It was the first thing I did when I woke up. I was like soggy as hell. It was fun though.
Oh,
That's because he didn't have me there to boot. He didn't take it out on Skylar.
I should have went on Jill's channel because I'm not working today, so I didn't have any. I wasn't sleeping today. I didn't have an excuse. All right, I'm gonna get out of here.
I want to start hosting them too. So sorry, I'm sweeping. I wanted to start hosting some, but I'm gonna start sending out links and try to schedule for days to do it.
Yeah, dude, I'll come on if I
event.
have time. I'll come on if I can. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I want to do a little questionnaire show too. So I'm just trying to set up that with OBS. I'm still trying to figure all that out. So once I get that situated, I'll be better.
Do you have a Windows or Apple?
Windows.
Download Streamlabs OBS, and it's pretty.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I have.
Oh, okay. I thought you just meant regular OBS rather than Streamlabs. Streamlabs is a lot more streamlined, if that's the correct word. It's so much easier to use.
Atheist Rationale, do you know a system or a download that I can get for a Chromebook? Because I went to try to get Streamlabs, and they say don't have a version for Chromebook.
Honestly, I don't know.
Just do OBS Studio.
Yeah.
They don't have one for Chromebook either.
Does regular OBS work for that?
Yeah, that's the OBS
I don't know shit about Chromebooks, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Chromebook. All right, I was gonna say one. Oh yeah. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Fun with Fundies live. So I'm gonna hit some old cult buddies I haven't talked about in a while. It's gonna be fun. So I will see you guys then. Say what?
No, I just said, oh, yay.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'll see you guys then. You guys have a great night. Peace out.